Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Yeah. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man so tough, but mans keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
If you've been listening here for a while, you know that I am fascinated by everything happening in the business of sports content, at least in part because I'm not retired right now, because what Meadowlark Media is doing is trying to compete in the space of sports media content. I can't help but find it fascinating when ESPN turns into a bit of a frat house where on Monday Night Football they're saying again and again, and Pat McAfee is getting drunk in Ireland, and Shannon Sharp has a sex tape. It's a super interesting time to see what happens when athletes converge on what used to be a journalistic space and kick down the door on, we're here now, and McAfee goes begrudgingly to a meeting on campus with journalists he doesn't like and that he says don't like him, because, of course, the athletes are a threat to everything that's been the standard in this industry for a while.
To be fair, McAfee is one down in terms of journalists he doesn't like who don't like him. You don't have to worry about that anymore.
How do you mean? Oh, because he knocked out Woj, and he knocked out Woj while using Shams, which was interesting. And Woj has Pitaro as a giant ally. I mean, he's got the president of the company is responsible for everything that's happened with Woj, and McAfee was using Shams, his nemesis, on ESPN in the afternoon when, and Amin left this part out. A lot of people don't know this, and it's a little early for it because we're celebrating the pioneering career of Woj. But Woj was really vindictive about how he carved out the space on ESPN for where it is that people would and could be used around basketball, and he consolidated all of the power. I'm saying that, not Amin. I know that because I've talked to too many people at ESPN who were afraid of falling on the wrong side of Woj.
Also, it's never fun when you find out where in the pecking order you are. You think you're number one, and then all of a sudden someone walks in and says, hey, I want to put Shams on my show every week, and you can't do nothing about it, and your big brother can't do nothing about it. That's got to be a jarring situation.
Imagine that, okay? Just in the minutia of silly sports media stuff. Woj's ally is the president of the company, but McAfee's got the relationship with Iger. That's the head of Disney, and McAfee had to get in there and be rented, not owned, under the understanding, because he cares deeply about his audience and not changing because Disney makes him change. So he says, I'm going to do it. You got to let me do it the way that I want to do it. You got to let me curse. You got to let me do the things I want, which include Shams, Woj's nemesis. When Woj was controlling where everybody was, like, don't get this part twisted. If people were appearing somewhere on the network, Woj had a hand in how it is that was happening.
And the opposite. If people weren't appearing on the network, there was that too.
That part's more damning. Isn't it? Like, I just feel like it's the first part what Dan said, that's kind of normal, I think, of creating opportunities for people. It's the
removal of opportunities,
that's the part.
The suppression of opportunities. Yeah,
it's real power. Okay, Woj was a power broker, Pitaro's a power broker, McAfee's a power broker, and Iger is the biggest of the power brokers. But the reason I bring all of this up, okay, as we all compete in this space, and I know you guys get tired of me talking about it, but as I said, it's been a singular obsession. I've never cared about the business of money before this, because I just wanted to speak at the microphone and do the writing, but now we're responsible for trying to compete in this space, and we're trying to do it by doing it differently. But Kurt Warner said this on Monday, and I want to, after football games, and this is the part that I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about documentaries, too, as I see that Oprah and Apple are fighting, and she just bought back. She didn't like the documentary that Apple was doing, so she just bought it back from Apple. And
must be nice.
Yeah. Kurt Warner says on Monday, I've been grinding tape since 8 p.m. last night, and I have gotten through 10 games. How do all of these people talk about these players and teams on a Monday as if they've watched the games and really can evaluate them? Can you guys share your routine so I can see if it's more efficient? And then Ryan Fitzpatrick gets in with, I would recommend a healthy dose of Red Zone and Stephen A. Anything more than this, and you're wasting your time, Kurt.
It's a great tweet.
Amin, this part is interesting to me because Kurt Warner is unbelievably meticulous about what his analysis is going to be, and he's going to be careful about criticizing people because he lived it, and he wants people, if they're going to criticize, to be informed and not be flippant. But the grand majority of most football coverage on television on Mondays is less informed and prepared than Kurt Warner's, but we got to go to market. And so not everyone's breaking down game tape. And what do you do with what it is that Kurt Warner is saying there? Because he's trying to play the game fair, but that's not what's going to get rewarded. It's not going to. ESPN has Orlovsky. They have NFL Live. They have Ryan Clark doing some film breakdown. McAfee does a ton of it because people do like film breakdown. But he's not wrong when he says this is a super complicated sport. And in order to analyze it correctly, you got to be thorough, and you can't do it on all of the games on Monday morning.
So Dan, let me tell you. So first and foremost, it always blows my mind. Whatever your sport is, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, whether it's baseball, or whether you are a generalist, a sports generalist, right? The people who said, I had Bucks Raiders on that screen, and you're full of. There's no way you can watch multiple games at the same time and be detailed and nuanced.
Correctly.
You can watch it, popcorn and beer, sure. Wings and beer. Oh my God, he just had it. You can do that. You cannot watch and retain information and nuanced information to do the job.
But you're talking about this the way that you watch basketball. You and I watch basketball differently. You're sitting there watching every possession, and you're doing analysis on adjustments that I'm not doing. I am doing popcorn and a drink. I'm not analyzing what has Spoelstra done in this timeout while I'm watching 4 other basketball games.
So when you put that in that perspective, Dan, if you are watching, and this is why it always tickles me when people watch general sports shows. What Kurt Warner's talking about, he's talking about NFL specific, and we'll get to that in a second. But people who watch First Take, Undisputed, those kind of shows, and then yell and argue about what Stephen A. or Skip or Shannon says, do you think these people watched every single sporting event with a keen eye and and nuance and with the DVR pausing?
Well, I do wonder though. I wonder what the audience, given the power.
There's a difference. That's what I'm building to. Is there's a difference between a general sports analyst and a sports-specific analyst.
There's a difference that you're making that I don't think the audience is making. I believe the power of television is such that if there's expertise being blown in my face on television, that especially if it's morning television, especially if it's the audience that has historically been around morning television, which back before the pandemic wasn't working. During the day, was at home instead of being somewhere that they had to be working. Those people were watching sports, and I don't believe they're making a distinction, the distinction that you're making between Stephen A. says this and Kurt Warner says that. They might say Kurt Warner knows more because he's a quarterback, but they're not going to say Kurt Warner's analyzing that game because he's breaking down tape in a way that Stephen A. Smith isn't. I don't believe those are distinctions being made by an audience.
I think the other thing, too, is when you look at those morning day television parts where people don't want to hear a cover 2 shell breakdown, right? Like, you want to hear the headlines of the day. You're tuning in to hear, oh, the Cowboys lost 45-19. What's happening with Dak? Did he deserve the money that they gave him to be in the season? It's hard to break down nuance, like, oh, the corner was shading to the inside here. That's why he was able to beat the man on the, like, those kind of things are tough to digest early in the morning, if at all.
No, absolutely. Like, that's a morning show. No one's coming for hard analysis. They're coming for just get me caught up on everything that happened last night because I went to bed early, right?
Is Kurt Warner attacking like Stephen A here, or is he attacking fans?
He's not attacking. He's asking. He's almost not like, bless his heart. He's like, how is everyone else doing this? Am I doing this wrong?
Well, I think he's being sarcastic.
Well,
I think he's seeing a lot of bloviating on television and saying these people are giving very strong opinions without being as informed as I am about the opinions that they're giving.
It's an obnoxious tweet from Kurt Warner.
No, guys, you got this all wrong. Kurt Warner's a nice guy, man.
I know he's a nice guy, but he's being like, it's kind of like we did a thing here when we went out to Dolphins training camp a few years ago. For the next 3 weeks, we were all just like, I was out at camp, and whatever I say after that, just that's what he's doing here. Like, I just want everyone to know I'm watching all these games. Like, we get Dan Orlovsky does this stuff too, where he posts a video. He's just like, just so you know, I've been diving into the tape here. It's like you're watching a little tape, okay? You don't need to overstate it. They're just shoving in our face. We get it. You're smarter than us, Kurt Warner. We get it. You know football. Like that. That's really what he's doing there. He's like, I know. I don't know what everyone else is doing, but I'm watching every game, every play, and it's like, we get you.
I don't know why you guys are getting Kurt Warner here, man. He's a nice guy. They made a movie about him.
I like Kurt Warner. I'm just saying. This is a look at me Louie tweet.
I don't know if you do.
This is a look at me Louie tweet. This is him saying, I watch tape and the film better than everybody else, as you should.
Look at me, Louie.
It's like, yeah.
You co-signing this nonsense?
Well, you keep coming back with Kurt Warner's a nice guy,
He's a
which
nice
no
guy.
one disputes.
Too sweet to be sarcastic.
Too sweet to be sarcastic.
I don't believe that was a genuine question that he was throwing at the internet. Please, internet, help me be more efficient at how I study football. Please teach me. Juan Lemonface 46534. Are you breaking down more film than I am?
And Ryan Fitzpatrick in that tweet, like, he senses what I got. So he's like, let me give him a little something here. Like, oh, you're going to be, like, we get you, Kurt. You're watching all the film.
Sarcastic Ryan Fitzpatrick. There you go. See, that answer,
That was sarcastic.
That was sarcastic.
One of the frustrations that I had as I came up in the business, Amin, is that I was perpetually explaining to people the difference between a beat writer or a reporter and what it is that I was doing as a columnist. Mm-hmm. I always had to explain it, and people's eyes would glaze over. The beat reporter is interested in news, in facts. It's not about analysis. It's not about opinion. Mm-hmm. I was explaining this all the time, and I might as well have not been, because it didn't matter that I was explaining it to athletes and everyone else alike. I don't believe that when people are consuming most sports coverage that they're being any kind of discerning. They're just trying to rest their mind, and maybe something on the television is interesting or entertaining, but they're not making much of a distinction, I don't think, between the generalist, as you said, because it's not possible for Stephen A. Smith to know everything about everything. It's not possible to be one of the, I mean, I know he sounds like it, but it's not possible to be somebody who is thoroughly informed on all the sports the same way. There's a reason that there are Ariel Helwani can exist in one sport. Right. He can, and he's talented enough to do that in a couple of sports, but he can't do it in all sports.
No. It's like when Adam Schefter was doing sideline NBA games. I was like, look, there's no shortage of people that we have at the network who are qualified, who have done this job, who want that job, who want more opportunities, more reps at that job, and because Adam Schefter played fantasy basketball with Chris Paul or whatever, fantasy football with Chris Paul, he's like, I kind of got into this NBA thing. I want to do this sideline stuff. I'm like, you're demeaning the position. Like, this isn't like just something that anyone walks in and does. This is something that requires an acumen, connections, and of a dedication to it. So, I mean, I would propose to you right now, we can define all the different roles, right? You have a show host, a studio show host. Their job is to make great television. How do I keep the conversations balanced? How do I get all the voices in there? When do we move on to the next topic? All right. So think of your Chris Fowlers. Think of your Mike Greenbergs. That's
Stugotz's.
Your Pablo Torres.
Right. Sure.
Why'd you roll your eyes at Pablo Torre?
This guy. Does he really move on to other topics?
He's one of the star hosts of Meadowlark, and you're sitting there mentioning all the other people at other companies.
I'm always smiling.
I'm too sweet to be sarcastic, Dan. All right, so next you have your analysts. Now, analysts come in different flavors. You have your former athletes, you have your former coaches / front office people, and then you have people who have been reporting and digging into this area for so long that they've almost like in the newspaper version, they've graduated from beat writer to columnist. So Stephen A. Smith would be an example, right? Stephen A. Smith, anytime anything NBA happens, it's not just because Stephen A. Smith is a magnetic personality. It's also because he has bona fides. He covered the NBA for a very long time. He is very connected in that world. So when he sits down in an analyst seat, that's why he gets to do that. Max Kellerman on boxing, right? He is so deep and connected in that world. Even though he is not a former boxer or a boxer training or whatever, we accept that his knowledge is so deep and runs back so far that he can sit in that analyst seat, right? Then you have reporters. And these are your newsbreakers, your Schefters, your Passons, your Chris Hayneses, your Shamses. These are the guys that are going out there, getting information, and then breaking it to us. When Shams tells us something, when Chris Haynes tells us something, when Jeff Passan tells us something, 99% of the time.
It's always right.
Not only is it right, why is it right then? Because they're not telling you their opinion. I'm not telling you, I think it's going to be 92 degrees today. They're telling you, I just checked the thermometer. It's 92 degrees right now. That's what they're telling you, which is different from me and you saying, I think it's going to be hot today. We've had a crazy hot streak the last week.
You're making distinctions, though, that I believe the average person watching sports television is simply saying to themselves, I could do that. I have had no training in any of these things. I can do every one of those jobs that's being done up there. Maybe some of them are saying I'm too shy to do it. But that I don't believe that they believe that there's any special training that goes into much of anything that is on television when it comes to sports expertise.
I had this conversation with a comedian buddy of mine, right? We were talking about podcasts, like the people who do podcasts who are funny on podcasts but are not comedians, and how they react to the backlash when something goes wrong. And I was saying to him, I said, the reason why is because you guys, you comedians, you are used to, hey, I went up on a stage with a microphone and I said stuff that the crowd instantly did not like. Either didn't think it was funny or thought it was offensive or whatever, and you got to navigate that. And that's your life as a comedian, right? Whereas people who are funny on podcasts, again, you're not looking at an audience. Even right now, we're one of the biggest podcasts in the world. I don't see millions of listeners. I see cameras. I see Jeremy. I see Chris. I see you. I don't see the people who are listening and watching to this on YouTube. Peacock,
You'll hear from them later.
I'll hear from them later, but I'm used to it, right? I'm used to people not liking, not agreeing. If I'm a host of a podcast that's popular, gaining popularity, and I say something and people say, wait a second, I don't like that thing, all of a sudden I'm getting this negative feedback that I've never gotten in my life at this scale. And so I don't know how to handle that. They think it's easy to sit here and speak in the mic and be interesting and funny and insightful every time. It's not, but it looks easy. You know why? Because we're good at it.
Everyone thinks they're a showman. Where's my camera? Until the lights are on, until the bright lights turn on, and then you choke. You can't do this.
I saw Roy Wood's new show. It's exceptional.
Yeah.
It's got range, and it's really hard to do what he's doing and make it look as easy as they make it look, to have a space between smart and dumb, a range. It's uncommon. What is the name of the show? Because it's only had one episode, and it's something along the lines of "I've got news for you." But I love that, Bill Maher tackles it one way, John Oliver tackles it another. The way that he is getting people informed by bringing them into a circus tent where a bunch of comedians are talking about the news of the week and downloading everybody on what's happening in America with information that's funny but also informative. It's hard to do all of that. And in their first show, at least, and I'm assuming it will grow, it was excellent.
It's called Have I Got News For You. And the other thing about that show, John Oliver's show, and indeed any general sports show, right, that the part that people don't understand also is those shows all have armies of researchers.
Damn right.
Their hosts are getting handed stacks of information. Mike Greenberg would walk. We could make as many jokes as we want about Greeny.
He's excellent at hosting.
Greeny would get a dossier this big every morning about everything that happened in sports, and he's thorough. He goes through it, and so when he sits in that seat and he talks, and he's tossing from topic to topic, he may not have watched any of it, but he's got a playbook of information that he has processed and is now regurgitating very expertly, which again is not an easy job.
You say this. I want to ask you guys this question. Everyone listening to this and everyone watching this, yes or no? You believe they think they could do Greeny's job? Yes or no? Because I believe the grand majority of people listening to this think that it's just sitting up there and there's not an actual skill to it, that it's just finger guns. I can't explain to you how bad Stugotz would be at the hosting job, even though he thinks he would be great at every job in sports media. He would be so very bad at it because he would just overlaugh every time he got nervous and not realize, no, you got to carry it here. This is something that you can't just laugh and sink into the laughter.
He would be so chummy, too, with, like, the former athletes. It would just be like a chuckle fest between everybody. And
But you would crush it, Dan.
I have been a host. I wouldn't be a host at one of those shows. I wouldn't be good at one of those shows. I'm not particularly good at television. I'm just okay at television. Like that's a different skill set. It's all of these are different skill sets. What are you shaking your face about?
Yeah, it feels a little fake humility there. Like I'm not even that good.
No,
man.
I don't think I'm that. I think I'm just okay at television.
Dan, you sound like when we told Tracy McGrady you're going to be a Hall of Famer, and he's like, really? Tracy McGrady, until they announced, had no idea he was going to go to the Hall of Fame.
I don't have any training in television other than doing television.
That's
like I
most
have
of the people on
but
TV.
No, but I'm saying I came up as a writer. That's not most of the people on TV. There are plenty of people who have training in what it is that they're doing. You're the anomaly, not most people. You didn't have training and I didn't have training. That's what do you mean? How do you not understand that this is something that people train for?
You just did what we were just spending the last 20 minutes saying the audience doesn't understand. You just said, I could do that. Those people don't have training. What? You just spent 15 minutes explaining to everybody what the different roles are.
I'm different.
The single hardest thing of all the things we've talked about is probably that driving, right? The Ernie Johnson, the Mike Greenberg, the host of those pregame shows, because you got to keep it flowing without it seeming too herky-jerky.
I don't know. It's they all got their own difficulties, right? It's kind of like, hey, at what age is it easiest to be a parent? Like when your kid is a baby, when your kid is a toddler, when they're in high school. It's different. But
what is the answer to that? What is the answer?
There is no answer. The answer is it's always hard. It's just different kind of hard.
After 18 has to be the easiest time to be a parent.
No, because at that point, you really can't tell them. And yet, like, you still will always feel that, no, but I'm your parent. You think, I talked to you about this, I don't know if it was on or off the air. Oh, it was when we were Pablo. And I said, the way sometimes you talk to and about your dad makes me want to slap you. Like, how dare you, man? What do you think this guy thinks? You think this guy looks at you as Dan Le Batard, this master of an empire? No, he looks at you as like, little Daniel, talk back to me. Are you kidding me?
The easiest part to parenting, the easiest window is like 3 months to 7 months. Because like the first 3 months, they don't sleep. It's like crazy sleep schedules. Once you get them on that sleep schedule around 3 months, before they're lifting their neck up, they just go wherever you put them. Like, just plop them down. They'll stay right there. If they cry, feed them. That's it.
First of all, you don't know why they're crying. Sometimes they're upset. Sometimes they at themselves.
But just feed them. If they cry, feed them. It works.
See, there you go. Spoken like the dad, right? that's definitely dad talk right there. Like, oh, I don't know. It's easy. 37 months, I had to do. Yeah, you didn't have to do shit.
No, I'm telling you, even that window of 3 to 7 months, they're just lying there. Like, once they get to 7 months, now they're moving around a little bit more. Like,
you're stressed the entire time. Like, oh my God, this hasn't moved yet. Oh my God, they're not in solid yet. Oh my God, like, dude, you're always stressed.
You're stressed holding them the first couple of months. By 3 months, you're twirling that thing around like a pizza. I'm like, got one hand. I'm making a phone call. I got the kid in one hand. I'm telling you, by 3 months, you're like, you're good.
And this is why your kid cusses you out now.
Well, I can't believe that you thought it was easy 3 to 7 months when they're screaming monsters. Like I am terrified of that age. You're spinning infants around on your finger like Meadowlark Lemon. We're on Max right now, and you can catch us on the DraftKings Network from Monday to Friday, 11 to 2 p.m. Eastern. We are also on Peacock with Dan Patrick, NBC Sports Fast Channel, Monday through Friday from 12 to 3 Eastern. YouTube is always available for you at 9 a.m. in the morning with our live show Eastern time. But when I mentioned Dan Patrick, he had a similar take to Greg Cody yesterday on the arbitrary Ohtani and the 50-50 just being a round number. Ohtani is in town. He stole another base yesterday. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, even with the new base stealing rules where there are limits on the number of times that you can throw to first base, it's still startling to me to see someone of that size stealing bases. Like Canseco did it for a while, but getting to 50 bases stolen at that size when you're that kind of power guy is unusual.
Jeremy, what was his career high in stolen bases before this year? Because
that would be 26.
So he just decided, okay, hey, I signed this big deal, can't pitch this year. How else can I add to the team? What can I do here? I'm going to steal 50 bases.
This is why he is on his way to being the greatest baseball player ever, because when have we ever seen this? A guy who does everything on the field.
There's no such thing. Well, he gets caught stealing. He's not that good at it, to be honest. He gets caught stealing a lot. What, Tony?
Then he's a tank. What do you want him to do? He gets caught stealing till he's 6'5", 270.
Well, no, but Tony, usually the guy who gets caught stealing a lot is someone who stops stealing. Like, that's usually how that one goes.
I'm actually curious, Jeremy, are the new rules, is it easier to steal now?
Yes.
With the new rules?
Yes, but he's also only been caught stealing 4 times this year.
A lot of skeptical people are saying that this stolen base increase is because of the new rules.
Let me ask a question.
It is.
As an ignorant person relative to baseball to everybody else in the room, maybe not Tony. Tony, me and you are on the same. We're on the same ignorant side, right?
Thank you.
I'm looking up hey, what was the most? 50 sounds a lot. What was the most ever?
Oh, no, it's 100 and something with Ricky
The most
Henderson.
ever.
What?
It's 138 by some guy named Hugh Nickel in 1887. I'm just going to assume that doesn't count because there were no black people or anything. But number two.
There were black people. They just weren't playing baseball. Yeah.
Number 2 was Ricky Henderson, who in 1982 stole 130 bases. And I thought about what you just said. He gets caught a lot, right? Because he steals 130 out of 172 attempts. How is that possible? Whatever the rules are, how is it possible you steal 130 bases and only get caught 40 some odd
He was
times?
really good at it, Amin. He was better than anyone ever at the stealing of bases. In fact, he stood next to Lou Brock when he broke his record and held the base over his head and said to Lou Brock, "I'm the greatest." That's what do you mean? How does that happen? Because he was great at stealing bases. Jeremy, take a look at the career number of times that Ohtani gets caught stealing, because you're doing it this season. It's easier to steal bases. The Nationals they've got 10 guys who can steal bases.
That's entirely fair, but we talk about how crazy it is that he stole 130 bases in 172 attempts. That's about 75% of the time you're stealing the base. Ohtani's doing it at a 92% clip this year. It's ridiculous. So I could look at the career, but this season, if he attempts to steal 92% of the time, he's safe. That's with 50 homers, 48 homers.
What's happening here? Right? This guy was created in a lab, no? This isn't normal.
It is not in any way normal. It is unprecedented in the history of this sport, and this sport has more history than any of the other sports.
Years ago, I asked the question, this is when I was in college, I asked my buddies, why do they keep switching the pitchers? Left-handed pitchers do better against certain guys, right-handed pitchers. I was like, okay. But have we ever had a guy who's a switch pitcher? And I'm like, then it thought to me, that would be insane. Could you imagine that if the guy just went up to the mound, oh, you want to throw up one of those? Okay, I'll just turn this way. Give me my other glove. That would be crazy. And but everyone's like, that's never going to happen. And I look at Shohei now, and I'm like, is it that far off? If we see this guy who does everything else perfectly other than throw with his offhand?
I think we do have an ambidextrous pitcher. He has one glove that fits both hands, I'm sure. And my limited baseball knowledge, I also had no idea Ricky Henderson stole so many bags. Wow.
There was a game this year, I'm trying to remember, I think it was a Cleveland game, where they hadn't been held to so few hits since they had been no hit by Jim Abbott. It was along the lines of, do you guys remember the viral video of two young black kids being introduced to In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins? Telling a generation that Jim Abbott threw a no-hitter with one arm and that there was a Yankee pitcher who pitched with one arm. Seeing a generation realize, oh my God, there's a guy out there who once upon a time threw a no-hitter and pitched for the Yankees, and he had only one arm. It was like a riddle that doesn't have an answer. If you have not seen it, you would not be able to explain. How could you explain to somebody, if you have not seen it, that there was a pitcher who had only one arm?
Well, I mean, let's be fair. You really are pitching. On the other hand, you just need it.
Most pitchers use one arm.
Yeah, in case the ball comes back, you catch it. But, like, if the ball never comes to you, you could throw a no-hitter, right? If you're just throwing strikes or pop-ups.
It's just more dangerous than anything.
Well, it's not.
Because he has no way to protect himself if a line drive comes back.
He's got a glove. No, he had the glove. No. Well,
Wait, what?
Yes, he's white. Well, you think he's playing the position without a glove?
Yeah, he doesn't need a glove.
What?
Doesn't need it.
No. I'm introducing you to the fact that Jim Abbott threw with one arm and also had a glove. What I'm saying about this being a riddle is, okay, for those of you who don't know about Jim Abbott at all, how the hell are you a major league pitcher who fields his position with a glove and only has one arm? How do you throw a pitch and have a glove after throwing a pitch? It's a riddle.
That's the more impressive part, to be honest. Throwing a no-hitter, not impressed. Okay, so you're a good pitcher. Being able to have a glove that you then put on very quickly after you throw the pitch, that's impressive.
But I imagine most people listening to this who don't know what I'm talking about with Jim Abbott don't even know where the glove was, because how do you throw a baseball if you've got the glove? If people are listening to this and they don't know what I'm talking about with Jim Abbott, I think they're imagining Jim Abbott throwing the ball the way you would a high-line pelota with the glove that you're throwing it with. I mean,
that would be awesome.
People who are listening to this who have no idea how Jim Abbott did that, where do they think the glove was? In the crack of his ass? Like, where do they think it was?
Like, kind of like in between his. Well, he doesn't have an armpit on the. I don't know where.
Well,
the
no, he does. He does.
He had an arm.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. We have video of it here.
Yes, he would tuck
just
it in
beyond the elbow.
He would tuck it in the other
nub.
armpit.
I had him doing it like this, like a
Under the
pillowcase,
chin?
like a pillowcase.
Throwing 90 miles an hour.
And like,
Threw a no-hitter with the glove under the chin would be crazy.
Oh, no, wait, hold on. The glove is kind of like perched on his nub.
Yeah. It was misleading
Yes,
the way
it's perched on his nub.
Dan
that
was-
doesn't have a hand.
a little misleading what you guys did there.
Hold on. Yeah, exactly.
I was envisioning a fully one-armed person, like nothing at the shoulder, like from the shoulder to
Oh,
the
so it's not impressive because he, has half an arm.
He's not one-armed. He's one-handed.
1 3/4.
This is crazy.
He's got an arm.
He's got a full arm.
He's got an arm and a forearm. He doesn't have a hand. You guys, once again, this is why no one trusts the media.
Let me play this Dan Patrick sound for you, because he agrees with Greg Cody that 50 is just an arbitrary round number. Sort of agrees. Let's hear this.
Shohei Ohtani's had an MVP season even if he doesn't do 50-50. And if you go back to when this season started, coming off surgery, a procedure, you also had his interpreter and the gambling debts. Was Ohtani involved, not involved? He's in Korea. They open up the season. Is he going to play? How is he going to play? He's not going to be able to pitch. Is that going to affect his hitting? That's before we even start the season. And now you go 48-48. It won't have the same ring to it. And that will be unfortunate because we haven't seen this before. 48-48. I hope he gets to 50-50 just because then history will be, I think, kinder to him and this monumental season. But if he ends up like 49-48, and then it's like, oh, yeah, well, how many home runs did he have? How many stolen bases? We'll get it confused. Did he have 48 home runs? 49s? Oh, the other way around. 50-50, everybody's going to consume it and go, man, that year Ohtani went 50-50. You don't look back and go, boy, that year that guy went 48, 49.
People hate math. I do think they hate math, and so they need it made easy for them. because it is, while not as impressive as 50-50, 49-48 has also not been done by anybody.
49 is one of the worst numbers in general. That's why you don't see safeties wear it. If you think about all the numbers, if I ranked all 100 numbers, 49's a bottom 5 number, I think, of all the hundreds.
Wow, really?
It's just not the 9 in general. All the 39, 29, 9 is just not aesthetically.
Unsexy number?
It's just not a sexy number. So he needs to
What
get
number
the 50.
is sexy for you, Chris?
Well, 21 and 23 are sexy numbers.
We already talked about this yesterday. For some reason, the 8 and the 5 were viewed as the most voluptuous. We didn't know whether the 5 had a belly or an ass. We don't know which way the 5 was going.
So he's got the ball in one hand, right? And then the glove sits like this. See how the glove and it can stick very easily. So all you got to do is tuck it right here.
But you have to have it facing the other way so you can put your hand in it easier. Like he kind of has it.
I don't know. This is a left-handed glove. I'm assuming his glove would have been
It's a right hand. It's for a righty, that glove.
Yeah, no, but this goes on the left hand, right? If I had another, okay, let me do it this way, just so Chris feels, Mr. Baseball Chris. Okay.
Well, if you're going to do it, you should be authentic. You should try and do it correctly.
I'm not left-handed.
Okay,
So
but
anyway.
you're not also someone who has half an arm and you're doing that.
I mean, someone right-handed would have that glove.
Okay.
Oh wait, but I guess if he only has my bad.
You see my point? Yeah, thank you.
You're screwing up
I'm not
Amin's mechanics.
Exactly, right? So this thing sits on it perched right here, as you can see, because the glove is very tight, right? It's tight. It's got oils and stuff. They put rubber bands around it to make it nice and tight, right? It's here, so it doesn't just flop off like, that sheet I had earlier. I could do all types of movement like this. If I hold it close enough to my body, right, and I got the ball here, right, I'm throwing, and now, boom, boom.
Okay.
Look, and I'm not. This is my
Got it,
first
Dan.
time.
Boom,
You
boom.
lifted the wrong leg, and just because you hit us with a boom boom doesn't mean that we're all like amazed. Oh, look, Jim Abbott's in our midst. Look at this. He hit us with a boom boom, and it seems like he can throw 90 miles.
I'm telling you, as someone who's never done that in my life, I just saw the dude do it one time.
Yes.
You guys are marveling, and I'm saying not that hard.
Okay.
What you don't understand is that when you throw a baseball, when you're pitching, you're supposed to be able to point your arm at the target to be able to give yourself the proper lineup of your shoulders and then come back. So if you're using this small part of your arm to hook the glove at the right balance, you have a wrist that's allowing you to keep the balance of the glove.
He's got enough.
It doesn't allow him to do that. He's keeping it tucked in. This is crazy.
What was the name? What was the name of the football player? Remember from UCF, right?
Yeah, of course. Shaquem Griffin.
Shaquem Griffin. Remember when
Goat.
you guys were like, "Oh my God, how's he doing this?" And I'm like, I mean, it's kind of like a billy club. He's using, it's almost like an advantage. He's whooping everybody's ass, just swinging it indiscriminately.
I can't believe what you're doing right now.
I'm just saying, sometimes it's like Oscar Pistorius. Maybe it was a disability, but maybe also a little bit of an advantage.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right.
Sometimes it could be both, Dan.
Well, I did make that argument once with Anthony Robles, the wrestler, who didn't have legs, and therefore his upper body was unbelievably strong. And they're in weight classes, and not having the legs gave him an advantage. I will
They
not
couldn't grapple him. They couldn't grapple him.
I know.
The limbs
I
weren't
can't take him
there.
down.
I
Like, you
know.
can't. How? You try to grab, but it's just a nub, so it keeps slipping.
Look, hold on a second. I need to stop everyone now because I'm totally not sure. I'm not sure because sometimes the times pass me by. So I used to say homeless person, and now I'm told
Unhoused gentleman.
it's unhoused. Correct. I'm not sure about nub. You're throwing around nub here.
Judges? No, we're good.
And I'm not sure. Like, everyone knows what we're talking about, but it seems indelicate to me. And it might be okay, but I don't have anything. I don't have anything better than nub. But I'm uncomfortable with nub, and I'm more uncomfortable with you trying to somehow diminish Jim Abbott's accomplishment by saying it's easy because you go bam, bam, and you're not throwing a baseball that's being hit by anybody.
This is what I'm going to say. I'm going to say I do not mean to equate Jim Abbott's plight to that of Shaquem Griffin and Anthony Robles. I feel like those guys, and Oscar Pistorius, those guys all, in a weird way, had an advantage, right? I could see how Jim Abbott could be, a little debilitating as far as trying to be the best baseball player possible.
A little debilitating.
I'm saying it's not as big as you guys are making it out. Not as big as you guys. Now, okay, the only thing is, the only thing is if there's a bang bang play, that's really hard to do all this while a laser's coming back at you. I accept that. But
I mean, they stopped trying to bunt on him. He fielded his position so well. At one point, they were trying to take advantage of him by trying to bunt on him, but he fielded his position too well to do it.
well, also bunting is a bad play. So that's
Well, it wasn't back then. It
See, there
took.
you
We
go.
had to
Guy's
learn
got
that.
one
It
hand.
still isn't. It's a
Yeah,
damn
see.
good play.
see a
Love a bunt.
dinosaur. You dinosaur.
Love a bunt.
Also, you're downplaying the fact that he could only play on one half of the teams in the MLB, right? Because at his time, if he played in the National League, he would have to actually
had to
hit.
bat
So imagine
one-handed.
if he had one hand
had
where
to
he was trying
slap
to swing
that-
with one hand.
Well,
wow.
Look up his career batting average because I do
He
believe
batted?
I believe he
Hold
had
on,
I
hold
do
on.
believe he had at bats.
I'm on it.
I don't believe he was regularly
Jim
batting,
Abbott.
but I think he had at bats. I will ask you to check that for me. I do not have it in front of me.
Dan, there's a podcast here that I
Batting.
just wrote down. Revisionist Sports History, where we go back in time and figure out for the first time amazing sports feats from the past that we've either forgot about or never heard of.
Dan, he had 21 at-bats.
I mean, he's just playing tennis.
2 hits. Who? Wait, hold on.
3 RBI.
Who?
What? What?
3 ribbies.
What? Jim Abbott had 3 RBI? Are you kidding me? Do you realize that none of us would go 2 for 21? It would be impossible for any of us to go 2 for 21. How the hell does he have 3 RBI?
We're looking at it here. He's got the nub on the bat. He's not playing tennis.
You sad son of a bitch who's pitching right now. You
No,
gave up
come
a
on,
hit?
come on,
Oh, no, we're
come
not going
on,
to let this
come
guy
on,
just skate.
come
Who was that
on.
pitcher? I'm with
Yeah,
Amin on this.
No, come
bring it.
on.
We need to
Run
shame
it
that
back.
person.
Run it back.
No, we do not need to shame that person. There's no reason to shame that
Oh, wait,
person
hold
because they
on.
gave up
Hold
a hit
on.
to the amazing athlete Jim Abbott.
Hold on, now I'm seeing it. Like, so he gets to press the nub against the bat.
I think that's Lieber. The Cubs had a Lieber. Is it John Lieber?
Yeah.
That's who that is. Let's shame him. Let's get him on.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
No.
How did it feel?
No.
Like, he must have felt like right? Dan, you always like say, what was the lowest point? That guy's my
Really.
lowest point when I gave
My
up.
lowest point is when I gave up an RBI single up the middle to Jim Abbott, who had one arm. That's a great answer to that question. I don't think we're being fair. He's a professional athlete who had 3 major league RBI.
The move there, if you're the pitcher, you throw it inside on the hands hard.
Jam him.
Because he cannot turn that around. There's no way.
So let's put up a listener's critique of Greg Cody, because Greg Cody is saying that it is totally arbitrary. It is random to just make it about 50-50. Who cares that it's 50-50 instead of 51-51? And a listener writes in, Greg Cody calling Shohei's 50-50 chase an arbitrary and contrived milestone while planning his 70th birthday on a yacht where his sons are mandated to give a speech is amazing. Yes.
That's a great tweet.
Yes,
man.
I mean,
That even had my dad being like, "That's a good tweet."
That's a good ass tweet, man.
what does your dad have planned for Saturday? Because your dad, Amin was talking a little bit earlier about my relationship with my dad, and he is right. When my father never looked at me as anyone other than Danny. I was never in charge. I was never the boss. I was only Danny, who he's known as always a 6-year-old. And Chris and Greg have the same relationship. And Chris gets buried because of how impatient he is with his father on the Greg Cody Show, featuring Greg Cody, that very popular podcast that Greg has. And the best dynamic on that podcast is the fact that Chris is perpetually looking for ways to undercut his father, who then very often will get genuinely annoyed. Your father is beloved around here, but your father is an enormous diva, and I can't imagine how frustrating your mother has found planning this birthday for him, because he pretends like he doesn't want to be involved with anything, and then he wants everything to be just
That's
so.
the annoying part, is that he's doing the thing of like, I don't care who taught. Like he's trying to like get to me on the side. Like, I really am not mandating that you, even though he is. That's the part. He's trying to back off all the things. And you think you're not skating on this, Dan. He was talking to me yesterday. He's like, I think we should make the whole Greg Cody Show episode next week. Stuff on the boat, content.
Well, no.
And I'm just like, Dad, we've tried this before at Moss. We never do as much content at these things as we think we're going to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to save like a 10-minute chunk. Yeti will go around, talk to people, and we'll have a little chunk of it. And he's like, what do you mean? We could get all the speeches. Dan's going to talk for 10 minutes. We could have that. And I'm like, Dan.
Did you know this?
I was like,
you have 10 minutes of time on.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
my dad, he's doing this thing where he's like, no one has to talk. But then in his mind, he has Dan talking for 10 minutes, which is crazy. And I'm just like, lower expectations. If we get more content, fine, but we're going to just set aside a 10-minute chunk for it.
Could you speak for 10 minutes about Greg Cody?
I mean,
Like,
yeah.
if
We'll replay your thing from his birthday. How about that?
well, that wasn't 10 minutes long.
It was like, it was close. That was long.
For real?
It was a monologue, yes. Yes, I could speak about Greg Cody for 10 minutes. It would not be hard, but it would not be complimentary either. It would be all about his unrelenting narcissism, where the greatest gift that you can give him is just make him the center of attention.
Yeah, I'm roasting him. I told him.
Now,
that's
guys,
what I'm doing.
I really want to talk about this. This is really interesting, and we're going to get back to Greg Cody and the yacht party, but we have a Jim Abbott update. Let's go to Jeremy on the scene.
Gigantic Jim Abbott update.
What do you mean on the scene? He's just over there.
That's the
Two
scene of where that
career
thing is.
hits for Jim Abbott, both of which were against John Lieber. We have to get him on the
have to
show.
get him
We
on.
have to get him.
gave
Sullivan,
up
get
We
him.
have to get him.
2 hits? One, I get it. You got lucky. Like, I got lucky, right? All the pitchers in all of the major league, 21 at-bats. Was it the same game?
Are you guys telling me
It wasn't two different games.
Are you telling me that Jim
weeks
Abbott
apart.
was 2 for 2 against John Lieber? Like he had 2.
Well,
at
it was over the span of a couple games. I imagine. I'll look at the splits. I think 2 for 5 career off John Lieber. So 400 batting average.
That's a
off
Hall
John
of Famer.
Lieber.
That's a Hall of Famer if he just.
What do you mean that's a Hall of Famer? It's the best baseball player ever. And anybody who hits 400.
Well, the Splendid Splinter.
He did not hit. The Splendid Splinter did not hit 400 in his career. He did it one season, and it was one of the most amazing seasons in baseball.
Oh, the second it was a line drive over shortstop.
That shortstop needs to field his position.
That shortstop should have caught that ball.
So wait, now you guys are foisting it on the shortstop. How about the guy who let the one-handed man hit?
Will you
twice?
please stop this?
Play it again, guys. I want to see the shortstop not jumping.
You guys are doing this incorrectly, okay? And it's in keeping with how it is we cover sports these days. Instead of celebrating the amazing achievement of Jim Abbott, you guys are critiquing John Lieber instead. Like, stop doing that.
That hit his glove.
Stop doing that, please. I mean, it's indelicate, it's insensitive, it's borderline cruel.
Look at that lazy-ass pitch he threw. What is this? Look at this. This is like pitching to your kid in T-ball. Oh, my God. Of course he
That
rocked it.
shortstop's got to make a play there.
Nah, man. It was above his glove, man.
He is
tried.
kind of playing tennis. It is what's happening.
It's like a forehand.
Well, it's a backhand because
yeah.
he's left-handed, so it's he's hitting it backhanded. Again, I just want all of you. You guys are giggling about this, but I want you to just think for a moment, because one of the great flatteries at our age as we celebrate 20 years is the sheer number of young people that I run into that I'm floored had our show handed down to them from their fathers in the back of the car. I want you now to imagine all of these people who are learning for the first time that there was a one-handed pitcher in the because he was one-handed. He was not one-armed, but he was 1.5 armed. Mm-hmm. He was missing. He was
3/4, I'd say.
He was.
Me too. 1.75.
No. It's half an arm. It's not 3/4.
Half an arm stops at the elbow. He's got way past his elbow.
It wasn't way.
Look, let's get that at bat again. You'll see it. It's a nub, and it's
And the nub almost fits nicely up against that bat.
It does.
It's almost
Like
to
a
the
nice-
wrist,
like
to
a
be
nice-
honest.
Do you think he has to lotion that part of the nub, or else it gets like a
Of
blister?
course, there's so much friction right there. But look at it.
But you
Can't even tell he doesn't have another.
You
hand.
can't have too much oil on it, though. Then the bat goes slipping out. It's like that nice balance. I'm sure it's a specific lotion.
You need like a petroleum jelly.
There
like
it
it's
is.
nice and sticky.
We
little
found
bit
it. We
almost.
talked it out. Abbott's got to have a sense of humor about this stuff, right? Like, he wouldn't be offended by this. He'd be if Abbott's watching this right now, he's like, look at me, still in the
Loving
news.
it. Loving it.
I don't. I cannot speak for Jim Abbott. I'm not comfortable with anything that we're doing.
He'd
right
love
now.
all this.
Okay, thank you for you're very comfortable speaking for Jim Abbott. I don't think he'd love the assessment that as one of the great athletes ever in the history of that sport, you accused him of playing tennis. Like I don't think I don't think that he would find this as amusing as you seem to find it. I am weirded out by the fact, though, that we've landed on amusing instead of amazing about this.
Dan Le Batard.
Cheaters never prosper.
Stugotz.
I ain't cheating.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
Do you guys know a lot of adults who can't really control their bowels, who don't have like Crohn's disease? Because Amin is allegedly a disciplined adult and he just had to run out of here. And he just asked me, I just had the awkward exchange of, can you handle this without me? And I'm like, well, I'd rather not. And he's like, well, I have to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, well, I'm not comfortable telling you to not go to the bathroom. Like, I'm not going to tell you to just sit there in some sort of discomfort. So now we do the segment without Amin. Do you guys know a lot of adults who can't control this part of their life?
No, just my 6-year-old. I actually heard of his dump in a different way through the poop chat. He texted 2 minutes ago, second dump. The milkshake was a bad idea last night. At which I responded in the poop chat, Amin, we're waiting for you. And he wrote, my insides are on fire.
I get very frustrated every time I walk away from this microphone, how you guys always descend into some version of toilet talk almost every time I leave. And the fact that there is on our Slack a chat where you guys are always giving each other updates on this stuff. Roy, this isn't in any way for you, right?
No, absolutely not.
Do you even understand it? Because I'm mystified by how much they enjoy telling each other about the fact that they're pooping. It's not funny. It's not clever. It's just giving people little updates on how disgusting they all are.
The idea of that being a Slack channel is hilarious. It's actually just a text, a group chain. That would be hilarious if we brought that to Slack.
The chat channel on Slack is a show chat.
This is why I have it. I'm glad that I have an Android, so I don't have to deal with that sort of.
You know what,
group
Roy?
chat.
I'm going to add you.
You okay.
Right, how
I
regular?
don't want myself into that.
Are you a
one.
morning guy? How regular are you?
Morning.
All right, good.
How did it go for you guys with the Panthers yesterday? Did you enjoy yourselves? You went out to their first media day. Did they have the scent of champions? Chris and Roy bombarded the Panthers, but we are not a rights holder, so they weren't particularly wanted there.
No, it smelled like winners in there, man. It was fun for me. I hope that you felt the same, Chris.
It was very fun. I can't wait for people to hear an exchange that I had with Bobrovsky. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to sell it. It was just, I tried to do a thing, and you know, Bob can be a little tough. That's all I'll say.
Well, when I heard you guys were going out there, I thought that in order to make Bobrovsky, because he's a champion and he's great, but he's terrible as an interview, I thought we should like bring sparklers and party favors and like work with him on how do we make you a more exciting interview. You're a champion now. People should see a little more of your personality because he's not exactly a content machine, the goalie for the Panthers.
Well, that's an interview that's designed for you because you tend to open people up a little bit more. Like
Crack them open.
I asked him about his spirituality, and he kind of opened up.
It was
there.
a good answer. Roy got the best answer out of him, honestly, talking about his spirituality.
Okay, so we will have that when after
next week,
a couple of seasons after
27.
7 or 8 seasons
when they
from
win
now?
the cup again.
Okay, very good. I look forward to that. I saw yesterday emerging from the shadows, giving an interview, trying to get back into the game. John Gruden says he's interested in coaching college football, and I do believe that college football has gotten just dirty enough that if Urban Meyer can easily reinvent himself over there, and if we're willing to just put down all of our moralities, that John Gruden will never work in professional football again. You can't litigate against the NFL and then get back into the NFL. But I do want to remind people of some of John Gruden's reasons for banishment, because I think if I ask you guys, if I ask the audience, do you know that John Gruden is sort of banned from football? the answer will be yes. But if I ask then, do you know why? Do you know the details? I think you need some reminders on the details, because he's been really busy fighting the NFL on how this was leaked and how he lost his job that he thought initially he was going to keep. Because when the first bits of this information came out, he entrenched himself on, I'm not going anywhere. Now, you got to keep in mind, this person was the highest paid employee at ESPN. He was the voice of Monday Night Football. It was a different age, right? All these people are now being paid 3 times as much. But back then, he was the voice and face of football at ESPN, and he could have gotten any job he wanted. He was kind of coach in waiting the way Belichick is. His reputation was pristine, and he loved football the way we love football. He basically brought to the broadcasts what Romo brought initially to the broadcast. It's not doing it the way Brady does it. It's the way John Madden does it. It's like, this guy clearly loves what he's watching, and that's infectious. Oh, but in the shadows, he does some stuff that is homophobic, and also wasn't there some racism in there too?
Oh yeah. There's a ton of stuff here. Just a few things that leaked out through these emails. Gruden called Roger Goodell a F slur and a clueless anti-football P slur. Gruden also said that Goodell should not have pressured the Rams to draft quote-unquote queers, referring to Michael Sam, the first openly gay player drafted in NFL history. In messaging Bruce Allen, the former Washington football team president, he sent messages with topless photos of their cheerleaders. Gruden also joked to Allen that he should tell Brian Glazer, the co-owner of the Bucks, to perform oral sex on Gruden. He mocked Caitlyn Jenner for receiving an ESPN award following her gender transition. He stated that players who protest the national anthem should be fired, specifically regarding Eric Reed. He also used a racist stereotype to describe NFLPA Executive Director DeMaurice Smith, saying, "Dumb Boris Smith has lips the size of Michelin tires."
Oh, that's bad.
I'll tell you, man.
Yeah,
I apologize about all of that. I'd love to coach again, man. I love football players.
You could tell that Gruden's been out of the light for a little bit because Chris is.
I'll tell you, man. I thought that was pretty good.
Nah, it's not.
I haven't
great.
done it in a while. Thought that was pretty good.
Bit rusty.
Dusted it off.
Bit rusty.
It's caliendo. That's what I'm doing.
Wait a minute. It's all right that it's a little bit rusty. Like, you guys got to, man, I am so tired of the culture around here of undercutting. You guys were not happy for Pablo Torre on Family Feud. Chris is trying a thing there. He's broken out his rusty impersonation. The hardest things to do around here in front of people are impersonations and singing. Those are the bravest things, the most vulnerable things.
I could do both, man. I'll tell you what, man. I love football. I used to be Jay, remember? I'm not usually John. I'm
Yeah.
Robert and
Now,
Kirk.
what's the J? Can we hear Jay versus John?
Robert and Kirk. Where are they at, man? Where are they at?
Yes,
And so where's John?
I'll tell you, man. John loves football players, man. I'll tell you this right now. I'll tell you. I'm gonna tell you again, and I'll keep saying it because I'm gonna tell you. I love football players, man, and I apologize about all that stuff I said. I really apologize, man. I don't know what I was thinking. I regret. As soon as I hit send, man, I was like, shouldn't have sent that.
I really apologize.
I'm super sorry, man. Love football players.
He's going to get back in the game. He's going to. Somebody is going to say,
Northern Iowa, here I come, baby. All right, too much.
Southern twang there to John Gruden.
There was some Hispanic in there. I heard it too.
All right. I'm not crazy.
No,
I love a hand turkey, man.
It was Juan Gruden there. I heard him there. I don't know how it is that you had a Hispanic accent, but you did. You were doing fine, and I don't mean to undercut you. It's just you got a little too cocky. And
Did I mention I apologize, man? About all that stuff.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, all of it. Just a blanket apology. What are your thoughts on John Gruden getting back into football? Because I heard you guys
To Americas.
before the show yelling at each other about Lane Kiffin. You guys, for some reason, are just fascinated with coaching carousel stuff in ways I will never be fascinated with coaching carousel stuff. And so when you tell me the name John Gruden, I'm just like, that person should never, and I'm a forgiving person, but he should never work in the coaching of people again. Like, when those are the things on his resume, the disgrace of that isn't something that should be welcomed back into that workplace. However, I am used to that particular workplace being more immoral than most. And so I do shrug my shoulders if you tell me he's possibly going to get back to teaching kids, because we've professionalized this so much that John Gruden is a name that will have, I assume, value somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if I see him, but no. I'd rather not see John Gruden on the sideline.
But remember,
I don't think it would be good.
But I apologize, man, if you remember.
Yeah, we heard that. Yeah.
For everything.
You did.
Football players, man. Love them.
Can he come in as a head coach, or would he be willing to come in as an offensive coordinator? Would John Gruden be willing to come up the ladder of shame by being an assistant coach instead of a head coach?
The only way that it could have happened was if Saban was still at Alabama and he took Nick Saban took him in and he made him a defensive coordinator, an offensive coordinator, whatever he wanted to be, and then helped him through that pipeline of recycled coaches that get that rehab tour. It's hard because we've seen really bad coaches and really bad people get that second, third, fourth chance, right? Like Hugh Freeze ends up at a Christian school in Liberty, and then all of a sudden he's like, hey, what did Hugh Freeze do? He's a nice guy. He's here with us at Liberty. Or Bobby Petrino, now back at Arkansas. Like, oh, when did that happen? Oh, that's right.
There's Briles all over the place. Kendall Briles, I believe, is coaching at TCU. And, you know, it's like the offensive analyst role. It's not even a coordinator. You sneak them in just in one of those roles. It's like right now on the rehab tour for coaching, Scott Frost is an offensive analyst under Sean McVay. This is always how it goes. They're an analyst, and then all of a sudden they're back in.
When you said Kendall Briles right there, I had no idea that's what his son's first name was, and I just had this weird, like Kendall Jenner and Art Briles like being one person, and that's one of the oddest.
Okay, it could have stayed a thought in your head and not spoken into
Kendall
a microphone.
Briles.
It could have not.
I'm sorry about that, man. I apologize for that as well. I'm going to turn my mic off.
You could have just kept it to
Football
yourself. Yeah, okay. You know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to just.
Kendall Briles, though. Quite the compliment.
Minor penalty, 2 minutes, rambling.
Just some thoughts should just stay in your head. You don't have to say them all at a microphone like that. You're just doing word association. Hey, you said Kendall, and I thought of a Kendall, and it was Kendall Jenner, and it's Kendall Briles. That's a Briles adjacent Briles. That's not the Briles. Art Briles is the problematic Briles, and he will not work anywhere. He has tried to whiff around college football, and he keeps getting run out of every place with every minor assistant coaching job because people are like, nope. That's too many crimes to bring around here.
That's too many Briles, actually.
This goes into the camp of, am I surprised, right? We were talking about it last week. Am I surprised that Dave Grohl had a child out of wedlock? No, I'm not surprised. Will John Gruden coach again? Yeah, maybe. I'm not surprised if he will. I'll be like, oh, okay, he's at Kennesaw State. Sure, okay.
But I'm asking you, as a head coach, you're putting him in charge of everything? Like, you can't
Somebody
welcome
will be
that in
desperate
charge
enough
of
to
everything.
do it, Dan.
That's how it always is. That's the redemption tour, right? Like you say you're sorry, and then you go do a small school, and then they start winning, and then all of a sudden you get called up to a bigger school, and next thing you know, you're back.
And we've seen it in all sports. I mean, they recycle coaches often. So I'm not going to be surprised at all.
The vampire, the biggest example that we have. Rick Pitino's like, oh, he'll never come back. And guess where he's at? He's back.
Yeah, but the things that he said so specifically about the executive VP of the NFLPA and about the commissioner of the league and literally using slurs about everybody. Like,
I'm not saying he'll be back in the NFL, but I'm saying he'll be back. Man. Look, Urban Meyer keeps coming back. How? He's not even good.
He's good at college football. He wasn't good at pro football. But you guys are so cynical and numb at this point that there's not a series of scandals or allegations that I could put in front of you where you would say, you know what, that person cannot work here again. I mean,
did he? That's
yeah.
Okay, someone who is lacking the freedom to be able to get out from behind bars to go do the job in college. So you guys are basically saying that Diddy could be a college football coach. That you're the Diddy equivalent, if you were a college football coach, would be able to get back into football because football's so immoral that there's no line for you guys. There's nothing that will stop you from hiring a name to be around power.
Did Diddy win a national championship?
I think you'd say yes. Several.
If he won several, that's a different story.
The Diddy thing, I know that David Samson, when he was on with us yesterday, didn't want to speculate about whether or not that was going to be a prison sentence that was going to last the rest of Diddy's life. But the idea that he would be denied bail because he is a flight risk, because you're worried that, like Russell Simmons in Bali, he's just going to vanish. Like, I was thinking when he was in trouble and they were surrounding his home in Star Island, I was thinking he should get on a boat and try to get away from all of that. If he thinks he's going to get out of this, this has escalated to a place where he is somebody who should not want to be in this country anymore.
I just want to clarify something. You brought up the Russell Simmons comp yesterday. Russell Simmons was never indicted for criminal charges. He's been sued, but he's never been indicted. So it's not the same thing. Sean Combs indicted on charges, and so A, him fleeing is a thing, and B, I'm pretty sure they would have had their eyes out for boats at that point. Like once the federal agents are raiding, they're not just kind of saying, oh, I'm sure he's fine.
You don't think that Diddy has the wherewithal, the Dave Canales wherewithal, to be able to get out of the country by boat before now? He can't do it now. But you don't think that he has the money to be
as a stowaway?
To be smuggled out of the country? You don't think that he could do that?
I don't think he could stow away, no.
Not stow away. Just, what do you mean? Just not stow away. Just get out of the country by boat.
And what type of boat are we talking about? Are we talking about a super yacht? Are we talking about a cigarette boat? Are we talking about a sailboat?
That's what I'm saying. I think what Dan's implying is like he gets onto like when a bunch of containers and they open these containers up and they open up, it's just boxes, and they open one of the boxes. And it's like
that's not what I'm not suggesting a cargo ship that he would be in a shipping container on a cargo ship. I am saying that I would have assumed that Diddy had the money to just get out of the country on a boat that would not be seen by the authorities. You believe that I'm wrong about this?
Those aren't avocados.
Everyone believes I'm wrong about this. This is something that you don't believe.
No, Dan, I believe you, but this conversation is outrageous.
What?
Like, this is crazy.
This is the one that's outrageous?
Well, the Gruden thing was also ridiculous, but we just moved on over.
I
Jim
apologize,
Abbott one was
man.
great.
I told you, I apologize.
John Lieber, Jim Abbott, if we could go back there, that was tremendous content.
It's maritime law, Dan.
Matt Sullivan is trying to track down John Lieber. He has found his telephone number.
For real?
Yeah, so we're going to try and get John Lieber before the end of the show. We will see if we can be successful in that regard. Before we do that, though, and before we get to David Samson and Adnan Virk, I want to play for you some sound of Michael Kay, and I want to understand this sound because he's talking to John Flaherty. What is it that they're talking about, Chris Cody?
John Flaherty is one of the analysts that Michael Kay works with, and apparently there's different schedules, different games. It's like, and I guess there's politics on who's working with who, and you're going to hear in this clip that Michael Kay and John Flaherty don't work together a ton, and there may be some reasons for that.
Yeah, and you weren't very talkative on the bus this morning to the field, but as I was driving here, I was thinking it'd be great to get a place that's close. You can walk back and forth. I know you mentioned Don Zimmer living out the apartments out in center field, but I just had a lot of time to think on the team bus today because it was just very quiet.
So you'd rather me be chatty? I wasn't feeling great.
I haven't seen you in a long time, right? You don't work road trips anymore when I'm on the road. So I thought we would catch up, but it quickly was evident that you weren't in the mood. So I gathered my thoughts about how it would be nice to live close to Wrigley, walk back and forth to the park.
Interesting narrative that you're putting together, because I've been told by executives that you prefer to work with Ruocco. That's why you two guys are matched up all the time. I mean, that's just what I heard. I don't know if there's any truth to it.
I just put it together that the road trips you don't want to go on, that I end up working with Ryan Ruocco because we're willing to work the games on the road.
Ground ball to short, Swanson. Listen, John, I don't make out my schedule. I go where I'm told. I'll be very chatty tomorrow.
No, I just want to make sure that you're okay. I was a little worried about you.
I think you were worried that I wouldn't be talking much on the broadcast.
That is just uncomfortable.
Wonderfully awkward. David Samson and Adnan Virk are joining us now. David Samson was making faces. I don't know if he was making those faces because of the Michael Kay sound or because Adnan Virk is late again. It may have been either one of those things. Which was it, David?
Oh, it was clearly the latter. It is now 18 minutes after the hour. This was called for 15 minutes after the hour, and I've been sitting here for 180 seconds.
It's a fair point by David. 3 minutes, he'll never get back.
David Samson is very punctual. He thinks, do you find it disrespectful when people are late? Because you're never late. I've never once known you to be late for anything.
I just respect other people's time. Time, is my thing. I'm running out of it. I don't want to sit here staring at an empty chair waiting for Verk for 3 minutes. It's ridiculous. What are you doing? It's 7:19 in the morning where I am. I've been working since 3:30 a.m. What are you doing, Adnan, that you can't be on time?
Vancouver radio hit 10 a.m. Eastern, and they went a little long. Normally they're 15-minute hits. I fear it would be done. They really want to talk Brewers. David, at least you can appreciate the passion for baseball, the good people in Vancouver, and they want to talk with the Mariners. How did Julio Rodriguez get picked off last night in the 10th? I promise.
It's called a hard out, Adnan. You tell people before you do a hit what your next responsibility is.
I know. You're right. It's a fair point. I'm not going to dispute this. I'm with Samson. Punctuality is everything.
Then why are you so lacking in punctuality?
But hang on a second, Le Batard. You cannot use one example now to say I'm lacking in punctuality. I'm not missing shows at MLB Network. I'm not a habitually late person. I'm on time. This is one example. Am I wrong? Absolutely. But let's not all of a sudden
build
put
the
the cart
narrative
before the horse. So to
My
speak.
wife does this to me, where it's like, oh, I did one thing wrong, and now I do this all the time. No, I did this right now. Okay, we're not turning this into all the time.
Except the last time.
And also, John Flaherty does this to Michael Kay, apparently.
That was super awkward. Go ahead.
Wait a second. Wait, tell this story. John Flaherty did this to Michael Kay. Tell the story.
All right. Well, no, you weren't here. You were late, and so now we have to play.
If you had been on time.
Yes, if you'd been on time, you would have heard the sound. No, please, Chris, let's play it again for Adnan so we can do a personal show for Adnan because he's 3 minutes late and didn't hear what we were talking about.
Yeah, and you weren't very talkative on the bus this morning to the field, but as I was driving here, I was thinking it'd be great to get a place that's close. You can walk back and forth. I know you mentioned Don Zimmer living out the apartments out in center field, but I just had a lot of time to think on the team bus today because it was just very quiet.
So you'd rather me be chatty? I wasn't feeling great.
I haven't seen you in a long time, right? You don't work road trips anymore when I'm on the road. So I thought we would catch up, but it quickly was evident that you weren't in the mood. So I gathered my thoughts about how it would be nice to live close to Wrigley, walk back and forth to the park.
Interesting narrative that you're putting together, because I've been told by executives that you prefer to work with Ruocco. That's why you two guys are matched up all the time. I mean, that's just what I heard. I don't know if there's any truth to it.
I just put it together that the road trips you don't want to go on, that I end up working with Ryan Ruocco because we're willing to work the games on the road.
Ground ball to short. Swanson. Listen, John, I don't pick out my schedule. I go where I'm told. I'll be very chatty tomorrow.
No, I just want to make sure that you're okay. I was a little worried about you.
I think you were worried that I wouldn't be talking much on the broadcast.
Nice.
And that's number
I thought it was
one.
done by now.
No, if you had listened to it the first time, you'd have known when the sound was SOT was done. Secondly, the fact that we had to play it twice to placate your being late, I'm so infuriated, Dan, that I don't even feel like doing the segment.
What? It's like the guy who shows up in the meeting, sunglasses on, latte. Hey, sorry, guys, what did I miss? And they have to bring that guy up to speed. I'm that guy today. I apologize.
No, you're not worthy of being that guy. You're just a bedhead guy in an Expos t-shirt sipping water. You haven't even spoken yet.
Yeah, Expos t-shirt solid. Thank you for pointing that out, David. That is strong.
My favorite parts of that audio are ground ball to short and then just the ominous organ music in the background. You don't often get ominous organ music.
Whatever happened to the Expos, by the way?
That's a great question. David Samson is with us. He could probably answer it. We'll do that another time because we have to get to the top 5 movie lists that they've put together. What is the subject that we're doing today?
This is the subject. I just saw a tweet that said the sunset in New York will not be after 7 p.m. until March. Wow. So we're entering now the dark period, which is always a bummer. But we're going to do the top 5 movies that remind you of end of summer / beginning of fall, because that's where we are.
Okay, well, we don't have time for that right now because Adnan was late. So let's
don't put it on me, Dan. Come on, we can make time. Let's go.
We've got 14 seconds left in the segment, so just stay there, and we will come back in a moment.
It's called a hard out, Adnan.
Yeah, I mean,
hard out, burn up.
So
I'm contracted for one segment only Thursday. See you later.
We can book for 2. That's good news. Okay.
David Samson has stormed off. He is boycotting the general tardiness of a disrespectful Adnan Virk. I am very eager over the course of the next couple of months to get their baseball analysis because we've got 2 foremost experts on the sport at a time that's really exciting. I was saying before yesterday, Adnan, that it feels a bit like the playoffs have already started because of the stakes on all of these games. The Yankees in Seattle playing late last night in a game Seattle has to have because they have to finish strong. We will get David back here in a moment to do the movie stuff, but at the end of this segment, we'll have Pitch Clock. It's a segment that Jeremy is doing, and if you love your baseball, you are going to love this segment. If you don't love your baseball, you're not going to love this segment.
Not true.
That's not true.
Well, you need to love baseball in order to love the segment.
No. I think the beauty of Pitch Clock, Dan, is that it makes it accessible to those of us who maybe aren't as well versed in baseball as some of us are.
Okay, but I would say
guy.
that Jeremy's being in the middle of it also makes it something that perhaps people, if they don't want baseball, might not find it terribly palatable because Jeremy's wandering around and he won't shut up about the Detroit Tigers, for example.
Dan, the gritty Tigers. I mean, come on. The gritty Tigers. Have you seen what they've been doing lately? It's amazing. Javi Baez, their highest paid player, since he went out, they're 17-7. They were a team that was 8 games under 500 in August, and now they're a half game out of the AL wild card after sweeping the Kansas City Royals, who had been a hot team themselves. Some stats for you. I mean, it's unbelievable because they only have 4 players who were batting above the league average in OPS. They don't have a catcher batting over 200. They have a Cy Young Award winner at the top of the rotation. But their team in the last 42 games, they have a team ERA of 2.54 and a whip of just over 1 as a team. It's unbelievable what they're doing.Ey're one of they're my favorite story in baseball right now. Detroit Tigers fandom, I am with you. Please send me everything that you have about this team. I am obsessed with the Tigers.
I was trying to shake you off of all of this. I was going, no.
Well, you had your face behind the glove. How was I supposed to see?
Well, that's how the pitchers do. I don't want the batter to see my count.
Adnan loved it. Adnan, what's your favorite storyline in baseball?
Well, listen, I'm with him on the Tiger story because I think it's been amazing. The fact they're a half game right now, the wild card spot is insane because nobody saw this coming. And I want to focus specifically on Tarek Skubal. Last in his numbers going in, 16-4, 2.5 ERA. He's going to win the Cy Young. He's nasty. He's fierce. He's ferocious out there. And a name that people probably haven't been paying attention to is Parker Meadows. He's been unbelievable for the Tigers. He's absolutely taken off. Cole Keith's been good. Matt Vierling, one of the few players that does have playoff success, has been excellent. So I share Jeremy's enthusiasm.
You just made up names. You just made up names. No?
Parker Meadows sounds like a very upscale neighborhood, like a suburb. Where do you live? I live out in Parker Meadows. Oh, that's nice.
Ooh, right next to Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think, guys, the Mets Braves, it's unbelievable. The Mets are going to be a playoff team. They're 2 games up right now in Atlanta. They're pushing, as a matter of fact, the D-backs for the second wild card spot. Again, who would have thought a team without Kodai Senga for much of the year, led by Luis Severino and Sean Manaea, and David Peterson would all of a sudden be pushing for a playoff spot. Lindor's running up for MVP behind Shohei Ohtani. Ohtani's now at 48 home runs and 49 stolen bases. He's going to be the first ever 50-50 player. But if it wasn't for him, Lindor would be the MVP. And I'm telling you right now, fellas, I would not be shocked if the Mets made a deep run this October. If they make the playoffs, watch out.
And with their MVP out for the last week, they brought up Luis Angel Acuna. If that name sounds familiar, the younger brother of Ronald Acuna Jr., he's now playing shortstop for the Mets. He's homered in each of the last 2 nights as they've gone on to win and are extending their lead against the Braves. So it's Acuna against Acuna crime. It's got to be awful for the Braves. I mean, this has been amazing for the Mets.
Acuna.
I said Acuna.
David Samson has returned. He was shouting. Who are you shouting at? You're yelling at Meadowlark people? What are you frustrated by? Why are you yelling into your telephone?
The mute was on. I was on the phone with my agent, actually.
We can tell you were saying, nope, I won't do it.
Because you're pissed off? Who you pissed off at? Everybody?
No, I just did. I have a schedule that I had to keep. I was not expected to do a second segment this morning. I've got another meeting I've got to get to here in LA. And it's because, and we're doing this because of Verk, which I don't quite understand.
True. Samson, it was 3 minutes. You can't hold me liable for the second segment.
It cost us the whole segment, Adnan.
No, it didn't.
And we had to sit through Amin going to the restroom, which delayed everything for today.
You didn't have to, first of all, you didn't have to sit through anything. I told you guys you could just start the show. I don't care. I'm not going to be like, wait, what did I miss? It's your segment. It's not my segment.
I'm trying to think.
I've got IBS, Amin. I feel for you. I really do, but we're live.
What am I? So I should my pants on air?
Don't eat milkshakes at night.
Well, guess what? Guess what? First of all, Chris, how leaky are you, buddy? How leaky are you?
Yeah, my bad.
All right, number one. Number two, you know what? Sometimes it's just gas. Sometimes it's a little bit more. Today it was a little bit more.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No, I mean, you guys want to make it content? Let's make it content, Le Batard.
How leaky are you? That's what we're talking about.
Making it content. We're trying to do a show, and we're dealing with people running off set. We're dealing with people being late.
There are 19 people on this show. One person, the whole thing falls apart? What the hell? Oh, my God, Amin had to go to the bathroom. What can we do? We've just got to stall it all out. How can we move forward? How can this country move forward? Can we hold an election with Amin's taking a dump?
End of
I just
summer
think that you're
movies.
responsible, Amin, for your own diet. People are responsible for their own jobs. And I think at Metalark, if we were better at that, we'd be better in general.
Yes. That's what's holding us back, ladies and gentlemen.
Wait a second. It's just a guy going to the bathroom and a guy being 3 minutes late is an indictment of an entire company? That's a little much.
Adnan,
that feels hyperbolic to me.
No, it's not, Adnan.
Damn
No, it's not.
descriptive.
No, it's not. The difference last year between the Rangers and the Diamondbacks was the Rangers didn't have to as much. They managed to hold their in, and that's how they got to the top. Number one in the sport. You know what? Don't dump. Wait until
now you're a baseball guy.
Now I'm a baseball guy. I out all my basketball knowledge, and I came back with fresh baseball in me.
And on a side note, Amin, what really bothered me this morning, in addition to Verk being late, was your commentary on Jim Abbott. Do you have any idea what it was to do what Jim Abbott did? And your imitation, as someone who works with physically challenged athletes, is embarrassing.
Well,
it is. You don't have one arm, you have two.
Yes,
and for you to try to imitate it, just say it is unreal what he did.
He's got 1.75 arms. He doesn't have one arm. He's got an other arm. He's got an elbow. He's got a forearm, and somewhere in the forearm, then it doesn't quite finish.
Stop.
I'm just saying.
An arm and 3/4. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, look,
there is no math when it comes to arms like that.
Disagree with that.
I disagree. Yeah, I am not in agreement with you.
Let's get Jim Abbott. Let's get Sarah Reinertsen on. Does Sarah Reinertsen have 1 1/4 legs?
I don't want to do this anymore. I'd like to stop doing this. Can we get to end of summer movies, please?
We're ending the summer all right,
I don't.
We're ending it all.
I don't like what's happening around here. It's wildly unprofessional. It is an indictment of our company.
When you guys are talking about me taking a.
Well, no, that you took it in the middle of us doing the show.
That's unprofessional.
It's an indictment of our company.
Having to take a shit is unprofessional.
You can't be at a microphone as an adult controlling your bowels. That you don't have irritable bowel syndrome. You don't have Crohn's disease. You're just someone who had a milkshake at midnight.
How do you know my medical history?
You had a milkshake at midnight because Chris Cody, old leaky Cody over there, told everybody you had a milkshake. That was the diagnosis.
The chat is open to the public. The chat is public knowledge.
Here's the crazy thing. I told Dan before the segment, hey, you're going to have to start a segment without me. He said, all right, go ahead. We didn't need any exposition. We really didn't. But also, I'll be if anyone tells me that, hey, you better just sit there and not take a.
Nobody told you that.
Well, it sounds like that's the messaging that's coming across.
That's not.
You got to tighten it up, Amin.
There you go. See?
I mean, you said that it's what's holding the company back. That's what he said. That you can't control your bowels.
That's according to David Samson. That's what makes us not quite number one, because of my bowel movement.
Number two.
That's it. Yeah. Thank you.
Jinx.
End of summer movies.
Number 5. What we all do here at Meadowlark. Stand by me.
Benny
Most
King.
selfish, angry group of people I've ever been around.
Number
It's a
4.
miracle we don't do this show from train tracks.
Number 4.
Grease. I love Grease. I love you, Olivia Newton-John. Rest in peace.
I stopped.
Number 3.
I stopped on that the other day, and I was laughing with Valerie because one of those high schoolers was absolutely 34 years old in
One
real
of them?
life. Yes, one of them.
I think they all were.
No. The oldest one was 34. There was a 30-year-old. There was a 29-year-old. The oldest one was 34.
Stockard Channing?
I think that might.
She was old, dude.
Just like the euphoria people are in high school. Number 3, theater camp. Now, don't make fun of this because you want to. Molly Gordon directed it. Ben Platt's in it, one of my absolute favorite actors. And this is a movie about kids at summer camp and how seriously they take it. And one of the scenes when one of the children is accused of doping because she uses a special peer thing to make her cry during the scene and gets yelled at for being like a steroid user. It's classic. Great movie.
Number 2.
500 Days of Summer. If you think that's about this, don't give me that. That is one of the top movies of all time.
Who
Joseph
gave you?
Gordon-Levitt.
Who gave you what? Who gave you what?
I just
There's
heard
the
like
horn. Yeah, the noise.
I heard a horn.
It was just the fanfare.
Horn's a good thing.
The fanfare just is. What's wrong with the fanfare?
Sensitivity. He hasn't done this segment before. It's because me has thrown him off. Oh, what is that sound? What is that sound they're playing when I'm? Oh my gosh!
Hey, Amin, my legs are crossed because I was supposed to be off the air by now, but I'm not running away, am I? Number 1.
You know what? Let's stall him a little bit longer.
Number 1.
I want to see it all.
I'm
let
a
go.
professional.
Right
I'll
on air.
stay here all freaking day
All
live
right,
on
you
the
know
air.
what? Let's
and
stay.
not
Let's
move.
stay, and let's not go on break. We're gonna go live on Peacock. It's a new marathon now, right here. Here we go.
I didn't move one time during the Oscar show. We were on the air for 8 hours. Didn't move because we were live.
Sounds inefficient as hell, but go ahead.
Really? It's one of the great successes of the past year at Meadowlark.
Really? Damn.
I can verify that. I'll back up Samson.
We are hard up. That was one of the great successes. We are hard up then. My bad.
No one
No,
said
we
we were
have
hard
some
up.
people
No,
willing to
we're
do
hard
stuff.
up. If one of the great successes was an 8-hour show about the Oscars.
The show was great.
Okay, that was one of the great successes.
I mean, we pulled something off successfully. Yes.
That's the bar.
I love it, Tar.
That's the
The
bar.
bar is getting through
We
a
had
segment
more
without
people-
shitting yourself. Like what? That's the bar.
Apparently so. Apparently so. Go ahead. Wait, look.
We
No.
had more people fill out Oscar brackets than filled out March Madness brackets. How about that, Amin?
Where more people fill out March Madness brackets here?
Yes. No, not
What
as
kind of
employees.
metric is that?
Our audience, Amin, our audience.
Your metrics are weird as hell, but please continue. And watch out for that horn.
Number 1.
Don't let it disorient you.
Actual numbers. They're
Don't-
not metrics.
don't let-
I'm not
don't let
doing
it disorient you.
calculus.
Number 1. Number 1.
About time. It's about time for me to get out of this chair.
How old are all of those movies? What's the most recent of those movies?
Those are actually,
Theater camp was last year.
Those are the
Theater
most
camp's recent.
recent movies he's ever put on a list.
I was asking because I didn't know. I wasn't asking to be sarcastic.
I shouldn't. He would have known. He would have had an idea if I hadn't
all
taken
right,
the dump.
enough. You know what? Enough. Of
No,
this.
I'm not going.
No,
I got to sit here and talk for the rest. Got to talk all the shit I got
2
out.
minutes for ruining comedy.
Not leaving.
Wait, can I get my list too? I'll be real quick.
No, don't be quick.
I want-
Adnan, do not be quick.
I want
Do
your
not
list.
be quick.
You're not proving anything by making Samson just sit there. Like you're not proving
Honestly, I'm not
anything.
proving anything. I just want him to be uncomfortable.
I'll go all day.
Number 5.
Okay, are you glad? We're not going off air either.
It is such a pathetic threat. I won't go all day by going all day. I'll go all day and I won't go all day. You are sure he is staring at us and he is daring us to make him pee. Number 5, Adnan.
The way back. The story about a disillusioned teenager stuck with mom's new boyfriend, played by a surprisingly nasty Steve Carell, ends up finding a very endearing Sam Rockwell. It's got water slides. It's got End of Summer. It's a beautiful film. I know, David, you're passionate about the way back.
Are you, David? Is that true? When he says, I know you are, he was looking for some chemistry from a broadcast partner. You say that to a broadcast partner and they go, you're right, Adnan, but you were refusing to play along with him. Number 4.
Autumn in New York.
Tony hasn't heard of a movie we've mentioned
we
yet.
talking about today?
Tony has not heard of one of these movies. Go ahead, Adnan.
Winona Ryder, Richard Gere, leaves are changing. There's nothing better in New York. It's sweet. It's romantic. It's a wonderful film that I really think captures the greatness of New York in this area at the end of summer. Number 3.
The worst list ever.
Number 3.
It's the worst category.
Dead Poets Society.
Got better.
Oh, Captain, my Captain. I mean, Robin Williams is exhorting his pupils to stand up on chairs. Robert Sean Leonard, a young Ethan Hawke. Who's turning off Dead Poets Society? Robin Williams at his best. Number 2, the list is getting better.
Hold on.
Silver Linings Playbook.
Okay, wait a minute. Hold on.
It's relaxing.
I can't believe the bravery and strength of one David Samson as he stares down water sounds of all kinds, the sounds of flowing liquids. Nothing can make him pee.
He's sweating, though.
Chris Cody was too busy with the sound effects to give you the fanfare there, Adnan. So mention number 2 again, please.
Sure. Number 2 is Silver Linings Playbook.
Listen, he couldn't press 2 buttons at once.
Yes, that's
what
right.
What does that mean?
That's
You
right.
think I have a water button, David?
Too busy.
It's my fault, Chris. I shouldn't have taken that shit.
Number.
You would've had a water button.
Did you want to say anything about Silver
Yeah,
Linings
let's just
Playbook?
Silver Linings Playbook. Whimsical romance. It's genuinely funny. It's sweet. It's romantic. Bradley Cooper, Jennifer Lawrence won an Academy Award. De Niro at Oscar nominated. It's not just for Eagles fans. I do think it's a great film. And number 1, I'll have what she's having. When Harry Met Sally. If I think of end of summer, early fall, I'm picturing Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan, and of course Rob Reiner's mom, stealing the scene of that unforgettable scene in Katz's Deli.
Tony, had you heard
Your
of...
list is so off the computer, Adnan. It's incredible.
You don't think that's a great list, David? You don't think those... If I put on When Harry Met Sally right now, you and I would hold hands and watch that movie. We'd love it.
I will not hold hands with you, and it has nothing to do with any sort of homophobia or any proclivities.
wow.
It has to do with my absolute disdain for your behavior today.
It was just an expression for the unity we would feel together. Tony, that's a good list.
Tony, how do you feel about... you've certainly heard of When Harry Met Sally,
Yeah,
yes?
last couple ones from Adnan I heard. I don't think I had ever heard of any of the ones that David said outside of Grease, maybe. Did Grease was on the list?
500 Days of Summer. You never
Nah.
seen 500
500 Days of Summer you never heard of, Tony?
Tony, you're not missing much.
What?
Never
are you
heard
Very, very whiny movie.
Yeah,
you guys are the worst.
Very whiny movie.
As I was mentioning before, Pitch Clock is going to be at the end of this hour, David. But before we get you out of here, and I just want to tell the audience, the Cinephile is Adnan Virk's podcast. You should find that wherever you get your podcast. Nothing Personal is David Sampson's podcast. He reviews a movie every day on his podcast. We were asking while you were storming around calling your agent, the single most interesting storyline in the playoffs, or headed into the baseball playoffs, according to you, is?
The Milwaukee Brewers.
Wow.
They got rid of Craig Counsell. He went to Chicago. He left him. They traded their number 1 starter, Corbin Burns. Their best player, Christian Yelich, is out for the year. Their closer missed half the year, the first half. And somehow they've got an underage guy who is unstoppable. And the Brewers are in the playoffs, having won the Central when every predictor had them as 3rd place in the Central. I think they're the top story.
Underage guy? What does that mean?
Jackson Churio.
He's
only
20.
He's
20.
Yeah.
He's not underage. Remember yesterday, I told you. 20
an odd
homers,
way of
20
saying
stolen
it.
bases, 20 years old, the youngest ever.
I
You guys
wasn't.
were so interested in it.
You thought I was listening?
Tony, Diddy wants Samson to be his lawyer.
Good seeing you guys. Thank you, Samson. Yeah, unnecessary Diddy reference. Yeah, just terrible. Just terrible. Truly terrible
Dan,
segment from.
get control of this.
Yeah, sorry, David Sampson and Adnan
Don't
Virk.
send him off yet. He still wants to stay. He said he wants to do this all day.
Yes,
you. I mean, you got to back up. The Oscars were an unqualified success. Give us some backup on that. Come on, Amin.
The Oscars were, yes. The Oscars were an unqualified
No,
success.
the Meadowlark, never mind. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Don't move, David. I'm watching. I see you on the Zoom
this
screen.
is the single lamest stare-off I've ever seen. Adnan,
So bad.
Adnan daring David Sampson not to pee, and David Sampson, like, stubbornly and sort of arrogantly not peeing. just staring straight ahead, showing Amin that he is capable of holding his urine as a 55-year-old adult.
It's an accomplishment, Dan.
56, and it's crap I'm holding.
Okay, thank you guys. Appreciate the time. Appreciate the effort. The Netflix docuseries that starts, speaking of movies, The Starting Five is what it is. And there's this new age in documentaries and in sports documentaries where people are trading access for a bit sanitized stories. I told you that Oprah just bought back her documentary from Apple because she didn't like it. She didn't like, and I'm sure there's stuff in there that she did not like, and she wanted it out of there. And when they refused to do it, she's like, okay, I want my documentary rights back then.
That's because she's an executive producer on her own story, and that's why, right? She has that control. It's not like Apple said, we're doing this documentary about Oprah, and Oprah said, oh, I'm very honored and flattered, and then said, wait, you guys want to ask me about that? Never mind, take that out. It's because it's her project that she's able to do that. She's able to buy it back, right? And so this gets to the heart of why many of these documentaries are compromised, right? Because in order for the access to happen, they are giving executive producer titles, which gives control and credit to the subject. But in many of these cases, it's not even that. It's the subject that's saying, I want to do a documentary about myself. That's even a higher level of compromise, if you will, that I can say, hey, I got a great idea for a documentary. Oh, what is it about? It's about me. And if you're Apple or one of these studios, you're like, well, Oprah moves units. We know this. Oprah has a touch of gold. So it's like, yeah, I want to be involved with Oprah. I also want to do a good job of this. But you've ceded any control of any sort. And so that's where we find ourselves.
What are you expecting from Starting Five? It's Anthony Edwards. It's Jimmy Butler. It's Jason Tatum. It's Sabonis. And it's LeBron James.
You buried the lead.
Domantas Sabonis.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I expect. I expect it's produced by Uninterrupted, and it's about LeBron James. So I don't expect anything to be insightful in any way. Much like, we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the Russell Westbrook documentary. I don't think it was necessarily bad, but I just thought it was toothless. And actually I did learn something from the Russell Westbrook documentary. That I learned that this player, this guy that everyone told me for years, doesn't care about what anyone says. He lives his own life. He does his own thing by his own rules and all that. And I believed that. I used to believe that about Russ. And then I watched that documentary, and the cacophony of three voices, Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, and Colin Cowherd, tells me he's listening all the time to those three people, and he is in a prison of the reaction to what those three voices are saying. When Russell Westbrook is ornery towards the media, he's not ornery towards Darnell Mayberry, who was a beat writer for a long time in Oklahoma City, or Royce Young, or any of these guys. He's ornery about what the three biggest voices were saying about him and applying it across the entire landscape. And so inadvertently, I learned that Russell Westbrook kind of is sensitive about what's said about him, even though he told us otherwise. Steph Curry's documentary, also very not good, not interesting at all. But what I learned is Steph Curry apparently does not want people to think of him as a silver spooner. He does not want the world. They never mentioned one time, my dad played in the NBA. They never mentioned one time, my mom was a high-level D1 athlete. It was all about the little guy who couldn't, and I tried. And it tells me something, the omission, the things they did not talk about in the documentary, tells me a lot about, like, oh, this must be how you feel about stuff. So we're going to learn some stuff, not what they want us to learn. What they want us to learn is going to be some banal, corny, vanilla stuff, but we'll learn by what they omit.
I was interested in my reaction to, I'm more excited about this basketball documentary than I have been for quarterback, receivers. Like, football's bigger in this country. I get more excited for football on Sundays than I do for NBA games, but for some reason I'm more interested in Anthony Edwards, Jimmy Butler, LeBron James than I am in Amon-Ra St. Brown and Patrick Mahomes. I don't know what I'm doing there, but I saw that preview for basketball, and maybe it's the mask, the helmets. I just feel like I know these players more. Maybe it's because I have my connections to LeBron and Jimmy that it excites me, but I'm more excited about this doc than all those football ones.
That's exactly it, is you know these personalities already a little bit, so you know a little bit what to expect. I don't expect to learn anything revelatory in this, but I don't think they've really pitched it as like this exploratory documentary. It's a series. We're just following along with what the season was and getting some fun tidbits we didn't get in live game coverage. So to me, it's just something to complement the storytelling we've already had, not necessarily discover something new.
In the quarterback, wide receiver one that we've been doing, like, it's weird because they're just kind of boring. So you're hoping that in this stage, in this other basketball one, that they're not going to be boring, maybe?
You were objecting to Subonus. You didn't like him in this group.
It's not that I didn't like him. It's just like, how did he get that?
It does fall out of the sky.
What a gig for him.
It's like, wow, we got the top
DEI.
Welcome to the Pitch Clock. Here's the pitch, a two-part baseball segment combining a nostalgic baseball trivia game and an interview with an expert. This is the Pitch Clock. Back here on another episode of the Pitch Clock. Very excited. I have Chris Cody with me for today's game, and we're going to be squaring off. It's going to be a group competition against our baseball experts, Jake Mintz and Jordan Schusterman of the Baseball Barbie Cast. They're Cespedes Family Barbecue. You know them well, and that's for Yahoo Sports. These guys are the best. It's a pleasure to have you guys here. And Taylor, we're just going to go ahead, throw it over to you. You let us know what our game is for today.
Yep, the game today is 3 strikes and you're out. Teams are divided into 2, so we'll alternate turns and alternate the person guessing.
Okay.
So it's kind of like you have to trust your teammate. The category today is Rookies of the Years from the 2000s. 2000 to 2009.
All right, so Jake or Jordan, you choose which rookie are you going to choose off of this list?
I will go first, and I will do Angel Baroa in 2003, please.
Should have been Hideki Matsui, but that is correct.
Oh my God.
Thank God he said that one, 'cause
salty.
That is not someone I ever would have gotten. That was a mistake on your part. You should not have given us.
Save that poll,
you save
man.
that
What are
for
we
later.
doing?
I just thought it was good to come out hot. I want to put my foot down and let these guys know we're not playing around.
Chris, do you want to go ahead and go first?
I'll go. And I'm going to do the opposite of them and just take the easiest one for me on the board. Dontrell Willis, 2003.
That is correct.
Yeah.
We're knocking off 2003.
Yeah, 2003 is now gone. Jordan, after one round, we're tied. Jordan,
all right.
What is your first guess?
I'm going to go with the fellow with a few home runs, Mr. Pujols of St. Louis.
There he is.
I'm going to go with him.
2001.
What year?
Yes, 2001. Yes. Sorry, sorry for Claire, but with the Cardinals. He was on the Cardinals.
Yes.
This is
was
fascinating.
Pujols.
Okay, time to move over to 2024 Major League Baseball. We've still got Jake and Jordan with us. And guys, I want to start at what maybe was my favorite moment from the last week. Heliot Ramos became the first player ever to hit a home run into McCovey Cove from the right-handed side. Not a lefty pulling the ball into McCovey Cove, but a righty did it. Insane power. So I wonder, this is sort of a fun fact, a tidbit. Is this your favorite fun fact from this MLB season, or is there another that stands out that you can think of, either one of you, that maybe trumps it?
I was watching it live, and I was chopping onions for dinner, and they said it on the broadcast, and I was like, what in the world? So yes, this is undeniably my favorite, just to think about how many lefties have done it and how improbable it seemed that a right-handed batter would ever do it. And for it to be a game-tying home run in the 9th inning too was pretty cool.
I mean, we've talked about this specific instance for years now, and I know that Mike Krukow on the broadcast has been talking about this for far longer than we have. Obviously, anyone that's been around the Giants has been thinking about this, but I've always just taken pleasure in looking at when balls are hit to places in ballparks that we don't see. You could just kind of get a sense, because we watch so much baseball, and we've probably watched 90% of the home runs that happen over the course of a major league season, and so when it looks a little bit different. But this is the one. This was the one at the top of the mountain,
and there was a 10-minute period in the winter of 2022 when we thought it would be Aaron Judge.
Right.
Remember?
Right.
Arson Judge was reportedly a member of 2 Giants, and so when that news broke, it was like, oh, well, he's going to be the first guy. Alas, that reporting was not valid.
This is fascinating. I'm going to go.
It's generally what you say when you don't have an answer. And you're
I'm
scrambling.
going to go 2004 Pirates, Andrew McCutchen.
That's gotta be
That's a
what?
Oh, no. I'm an idiot.
I had written
He
down.
ain't that old.
It feels like he is. It feels like he's been in the league forever.
I
now
wrote down
feel,
McCutchen.
Oh, what a mistake. Back to Jake.
A layup. I'm going to take Mr. Ichiro Suzuki.
Yep.
In 2001, please.
Yep. There he
That
is.
is correct. There
Ichiro
is another
2001.
Mariner
Yeah,
in
we-
2000. I thought that would trip some people up.
Yeah.
It would have tripped me up.
Especially the people
No.
in this room that I'm looking at.
You jerk. Chris is back up. We have one strike on the board, obviously. Jake and Jordan do not. Chris, you look super confident.
We go back to the Marlins.
That's what I was going to do. Shit.
Yeah, stay.
Yeah,
I got to
we need to
say,
stay
a lot
with
of
the
rookies
Marlins.
a year here for a bad team.
Now,
Yeah.
I know the two rookies.
Not fair.
I know the two rookies of the year, and I am like 89% sure I have the years
I
right.
think I know which
I'm going
one
to
is
go
which.
Hanley in 06.
Hanley in 06.
There he
correct.
is. All right.
Nice work.
Now, what's the strategy from Jordan here? Because I think
You know what?
knows.
If Jake is going to go with Angel Baroa, then I think I'm going to go with Giovanni Soto.
Good lord.
2008,
Birth of the
baby.
Chicago Cubs in
Oh
2008. Is that correct?
That's a great poll.
You guys are so much better at this than
Ooh,
we
that's
are.
just how
I am
Yeah,
not
this
good at
is-
trivia. We're gonna.
So
I'll
speak for
start
yourself,
embarrassing
Jeremy.
myself here
All right.
soon. But
I'm
I
two
feel the Soto season was.
I'm 2
I
for
mean,
2.
that's talk about Sotos who baseball play. People should be talking about more.
$500
Yeah,
million
that's the-
player.
That's the
what I
Soto
think.
for sure. All right. Well, if this is the case, I just need to feel safe. I'm going to go with a Marlin. 2009 Chris Coughlin.
Yeah.
It is Chris Coughlin.
Yeah.
We are losers.
We'll never
Just
forget
going
the
for our
Chris
home-
Coughlin season ever. All right. We're back to Jake here.
Oh, well, you tried to trip us up with those two Mariners. Well, you can't do that because I know that Kaz Sasaki won in 2000.
You've got to be kidding
good.
me.
That is
Before
correct.
Ichiro.
Cat-
Before
Jeez.
Ichiro, he was just setting the stage for Ichiro.
Kaz Sasaki. Is there a team currently in the mix for the postseason that if I called either one of you in about 6 weeks and said, hey, this team just won the World Series, that you would just be completely and utterly shocked by?
Man, I don't know. Like I just watched. You think about the teams at the very bottom of the standings, right?
Right.
The Twins. I just saw them lose in very embarrassing fashion with my own two eyes last night. That would be a team that just because of how poorly they've played, but they still have some recipes that I could imagine now that they're healthier. So I don't know who is the thinnest.
All right, I'm
Here's
gonna
a
hop
weird
in.
one.
Let me hop
Here's a
in.
weird one.
Let me hop
the
in.
Mets. I'm gonna say the Mets.
You would be shocked if it was the Mets. How is that possible given all of
I-
the luck they've had this season?
No,
wrong, wrong.
Okay, all right,
wrong.
go-
All right,
wrong.
let's let Jake hop in
the,
here.
The Mets have the topsy-turvy irrational magic behind them that you can envision propelling them. The Orioles are less likely to me than the Mets.
Wow.
Simply, yes, I know you're floored by that. The
Wow.
Orioles are the team that I am the most worried about right now because they've had a mediocre to below average offense for the last 2.5 months. They have really two healthy starting pitchers you can trust between Corbin Burns and Zach Eflin. And this was a team that had so much buzz over the first couple months of the season because of how good the offense was. And with injuries and underperformance from guys like Adley Rutschman, this team has really fallen down the pecking order. I don't think they have what it takes to claw back the gap in the AL East from the Yankees. And I can just see them getting bounced in a wild card set.
I don't know. I still think that to your point, it is so wide open. The only thing I feel confident about is that the Astros are going to be in the ALCS. Other than that,
course.
I have no reason to believe anything is going to happen on either side of the bracket.
Guys, I actually do want to talk to you about the Dodgers now because to me, they are in maybe the most interesting position of any team headed into the postseason. What percentage should the panic meter be at if you're a Dodgers fan headed into this postseason? And before you answer this question, just know there's sort of a secret weapon in the back of my mind that I'm going to follow up here with in just a second.
I don't think it's panic. I think it's despondence. I think the way that the Dodgers have bounced from October over the last couple of years in the first round to inferior teams, it's not even freaking out. It's, oh, here we go again. It's that meme.
I think also, I just keep thinking about the news we just got yesterday about Yoshinobu Yamamoto and how they are going to still be fairly conservative in terms of asking him to pitch on regular rest versus regular postseason rest. And that isn't necessarily as important in the postseason just because you do have a lot of off days. But at the same time, I mean, for most pitchers, you're expecting them to go on at least a little bit more shorter rest.
And he hasn't even thrown 5 innings yet. Jeremy, I'm gonna jump your question here, which is about Shohei Ohtani.
Yes, it is. It is about
Right.
Shohei Ohtani. You're right.
All season long, the Los Angeles Dodgers have been pretty steadfast that Shohei Ohtani is not going to pitch this year. That they changed their tune, they're worried. And they're like, well, you're hurt. You're hurt. Oh, he pitches. Maybe he could pitch. The swap in the Ohtani vibe about him pitching tells me that there's at least some level of urgency internally going on with the Dodgers.
Chris, you're up.
I'm going to go 2008 Evan Longoria.
Nice.
Longo.
Yeah.
That's
Evan Longoria. That's a good one. We're sending it back over to Jordan.
I am now mildly struggling, but I think I'm going to go with Prince Fielder.
2007?
No.
2007?
No.
That is a strike.
No.
All right.
That is a
If that's a strike, if that's a
Sorry.
strike, does that mean I'm
Jake's
up here?
disappointed. As soon as I said, I was like, oops, wrong Brewer.
All right, so 2007. I'm going to try to steal that one. I hope I'm right. 2007 Milwaukee Brewers, Ryan Braun.
It is Ryan.
Yeah.
All right, back
As
in
soon
the
as I said it, I
game.
was like, it was Braun.
All right. So Jake, it's
I'm
back to
sorry.
you.
There
Both
you go.
teams
Back
have one
in it,
strike.
boys. You're welcome.
2004 Bobby Crosby, please. Thank you.
Bobby Crosby.
Which team? Just
Yeah.
for clarification.
The Athletics.
Listen,
There you
if
go.
you
No
know,
City.
If you know Bobby Crosby, I shouldn't even ask for the
Yeah,
time.
I don't know why you were bothering. Are we allowed to work collaboratively, or
No.
does Chris just need to? All right, Chris needs to do
The
this on his
fact
own.
that I can't think of
10
this
seconds.
2005 Philly is because this is like the peak of my baseball life. I can't think of that one. I'm going to go 0-2 Rockies, Troy Tulowitzki.
early.
Not that's same as
strikes.
Kutch. He ain't that old.
Yeah,
Not that old.
Damn it, that's a shame. Guys, as we head into a weekend full of baseball, just over a week left in this season, is there a series that maybe the folks listening to this or watching this should keep an eye on if they want to prep themselves for postseason baseball?
The Mets going down to Atlanta for 3 games next week in the penultimate series is one that we started to realize could be pretty juicy a few weeks ago and is now setting up to really be something special. There are a couple other divisional matchups that are pretty compelling next week. The Mariners going down to Houston for a last gasp at the division, the Orioles in New York as well. I know those teams are a little bit farther back, but obviously the stakes for the Mets and Braves pushing for that last spot is pretty compelling.
But if you really want to be ill with baseball, then the only series for you, Jordan knows exactly what I'm about to say, is White Sox Angels.
Yes.
Now, maybe not for playoff baseball. The White Sox, who were on pace for the worst record, the worst winning percentage in baseball history, they have won, I think, 3 in a row right now. They beat the Angels last night. They're playing them again next week. They need 5 more wins to ensure that they do not have the worst winning percentage of all time. The Angels, meanwhile, are playing to not have the worst winning percentage in franchise history.
So if you want to see a particularly relieved handshake line at the end of the night, no matter what happens, you'll see that there.
Well, guys, thank you for the knowledge of 2024 baseball. Let's send it back to our game and see how this competition finishes out. Jordan is up.
What a dumb guess by me.
Yeah.
Jordan, what is your next guess?
I think I'm going to go with Pedroia in 07.
It is Dustin Pedroia.
Wow, Dustin
Yes.
Pedroia. Boston Red Sox.
Felt pretty good about that. And then for some reason, I swerved to Prince in 07. That was stupid. So
I think I have this one. I'm hoping for the best. I'm going back to 2002, but I'm going to go with the Toronto Blue Jays, Vernon Wells.
Strike three.
No! Who would that be? Shit. All right, well, it doesn't even matter at this point, but if you guys want to round out this round or just start, I mean, we've already lost. If you want to just name as many of them as you can here, feel free to rapid fire because we don't know anything.
Okay, here's what I got. I got 06 is Verlander with the Tigers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Correct.
04 is Jason Bay
Correct.
with the
Yes.
Pirates.
Is 08 Desmond Jennings, or is that too
No,
early?
he already said
No,
Longoria.
that was Longoria.
Oh, we had that right.
I already
apologize.
said
I
Longoria.
apologize.
Who's 05
He's
Phillies?
The Phillies. Utley? No, that's
Utley?
too early for Utley, I think.
I know the following person won Rookie of the Year. I don't know if it was the 00 Braves or the 02 Jays. I'm going to say Eric Hinske, 2002. Jays.
Eric Hinske was the 2002 Brave. I'll go through what we missed.
Yeah.
2000, Rafael Furcal for the Braves.
Oh.
2002,
Okay, yeah.
Jason Jennings from the Rockies. Eric Hinske from the Blue Jays.
Jason Jennings.
We got Jason Bay, 2004 from the Pirates. 2005 from the Phillies, Ryan Howard.
Oh!
For the A's, Houston Street.
Oh.
And then
Yeah, that one I should've got
2009
more.
from the Oakland A's, the last one, Andrew Bailey.
Andrew Bailey.
That 05.
Wow.
That 05 is a punch in the gut. I
That
knew both
is
of those.
crazy.
05 is unforgivable for everybody here.
Yeah, we honestly should feel so bad.
I am
that
ashamed.
nobody
Other
got
than
Ryan
that, I don't
Howard.
feel that bad.
Yeah.
Hey, well, that was a blast. Thank you guys for joining us on this episode of The Pitch Clock. I'm going to go cry in the bathroom.
So is Eric Hinske.
That's right. It's Thursday Thunder, and it's brought to you by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you're going to hear all that DraftKings has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Tony, what do we got?
Boys, we got Thursday night football tonight. New England Patriots, who've been pesky, they've been frisky the last couple of weeks. Just want to let you know they've been good.
They've been
Dan, you've
both.
been surprised by them.
I wouldn't say good, but I would say pesky and frisky.
They've been pesky and frisky against the New York Jets tonight in New York at the Meadowlands.
Turkey.
We've got a 3-leg parlay all in Thursday night football, a single game parlay by our friends at DraftKings. First leg, over 60 rushing yards for Breece Hall tonight. 60 rushing yards is the number there. Second leg of the parlay, we're going back to the ground game. Dan, we're establishing the run early on Thursday Thunder. Braylon Allen, who I very much like, by the way. Very much like, over 25 yards on the ground. You?
We didn't get your top 5 observations.
We have it. If you want to go to it, we have it.
We have your top 5 football
We do.
observations?
We absolutely
We
do.
need to get to that.
Last leg, New York Jets -6 against the spread. Different segment, but in the same Thursday Thunder. So Breece Hall over 60, Braylon Allen over 25, and the Jets -6. That is your Thursday Thunder.
The good news is we have found John Lieber, who allowed 2 RBI to the one-handed Jim Abbott. The bad news is that he is tied up all day at a sales training conference in Fort Lauderdale to promote his new cruise planning business.
Wow.
He's here.
He's got to be in studio.
I
now.
love a cruise.
Tomorrow.
He's got to be in
We
studio.
got to see if John Lieber will come in tomorrow and sit
I
with
will
us.
drive.
And
I'll go drive and get him.
I'll go on his cruise. I will.
You'll go on his cruise?
I mean, isn't that what he just said?
he's at a sales training conference to promote his new cruise planning business.
Hey, he can plan my cruise.
There you go.
Okay.
You have
that's-
one customer in me if you come on this show.
pick
That's
him up
called
tomorrow.
quid pro quo, folks.
Let's do this. Let's do the useless sound montage because we've gotten away from the useless sound montage and it is Thursday and it's late for the useless sound montage. But off of the football weekend, there were all manner of people saying useless things. Let's gather them all in one place and let's start with Jim Harbaugh.
I love guys who like football. And guys who like football, they like me back, and I like them back. And even guys that don't like football, I mean, they try to avoid me because I'm always trying to get them to like football more.
The first chop of the tree doesn't chop the tree down. It takes sometimes 272 axe chops, and it took every single one tonight to get the job done.
Quarterbacks tend to play better when you're able to run the football effectively.
I asked Malik why he didn't throw the ball on that third down, and he told me that Josh threw up on the ball. I was like, that's the first time I've ever heard that.
These are kind of the games you look back on late in the season and you're thankful that you won these.
Yeah, it's just great to get a win. Any win that you can get, especially early in the season, they're going to, be critical, as we move on forward to the season.
We're not going to hope for a change. We're going to do some things to create a change.
I'm not a doctor. I take accountability. There. It starts with me.
As players, we got to be better. I got to be better. I got to, pick him up. I got to pick up other guys. Other guys got to pick up me. That's how we win. And unfortunately, we couldn't overcome too many mistakes today.
And look in the mirror fix it. I got to play better.
How do we put guys in some better spots? And that's collectively, and it always starts with me.
Their head coach cost them this one. So 100% on me. We improved. There's areas we got to continue to improve on, but it's not okay.
Just because you got, really good players and good scheme doesn't mean the other team's going to give it to you. You have to go out and earn it. So we've had to learn that, the first 2 games of the season. So hopefully we can be better next week.
We always take it 1 week at a time. And I think that's one of the great things that Coach Harbaugh has taught us is, you can't be 2-0 without being 1-0, and you can't be 1-0 without winning the first one.
I mean, we suck right now, so I don't, pretty shocked.
He's a grown-up, and he knows better. And so, I was really irritated that he cost us 3 points in a game that we probably needed it.
Congratulations to our offense and our team, but we still got work to do. I love to answer that question, but there's a lot of meat on the bone.
Great team effort, offense, defense, special teams. Great week of practice.
All 3 phases did an excellent job today.
They got to be a catalyst for us. They know it. They own that. They don't run from that. They run to that.
Going into it, we know the turnover battle would be a big piece of this. It's how we want to play. It's part of our identity. And so to win the turnover battle, I thought was big.
We get the little things right, the big things will take care of themselves, and we just didn't take care of the little things.
Just got to find a way to win. Like you said, I'm not used to being 0-2. Just got to catch our momentum and get it started right away.
We come in with that mentality that if we get the football with the chance to win the game, we're going to do it, and we were able to do that today.
Sometimes good steps don't turn into wins, though.
Turnovers, they kill you. They very seldom give you an opportunity to win the game.
What I was most proud of is that the guys fought all the way till the end.
I mean, I've tried to flip off a diving board into water. I've tried to do it off of a trampoline. I only tried it once off just the ground like he did it. And pretty much every time, for some reason, I stop mid-turn. I know people can do it, rather easily. Something I always tried to do. Yeah, just cool. I've always admired people that could do that. That's something I'm missing, not getting that last part of it in.
None of your businesses.
Drop back, do it to the other team.
I can't give you all the ingredients to the hot dog. You might not like it.
None of your businesses. Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Does it sometimes take 272 axe chops? And was Jim Harbaugh on a diving board of some sort while he was talking? Like, what were those springs making sound in the background of what it is Jim Harbaugh was saying?
That was incredible for a couple of reasons. Number one, the sound of the diving board. Like, it's like he's bouncing on it, but he wants to do it, but he's scared because he's failed, as he told us in that sound. And number two, he went on for a long time talking about that.
Trampoline.
Number three, what was the question that elicited that answer? Do you ever think about that, Dan, when you hear an answer in one of these press conferences?
Not with Harbaugh. I mentioned yesterday, I'll tell the story again because it's such an amazing one, the 2003 deposition of Donald Sterling about his mistress, when you wonder what a question is, because I've never seen this kind of answer to a question.
Yep.
I have to find it on my phone.
I got you. So he's giving a deposition, right? And he's under oath, and he gives this answer, which is long, like Harbaugh's, and
it was
very
about
detailed.
how he liked. I'm just going to paraphrase. He liked to fool around in the back of a limousine. He liked the sucking and the enjoyment.
There you go.
And he gave a lot of details. And then the attorney says, "Sir, the question was, is this your handwriting?"
The answer was, well, I fool around sometimes. I do. When a girl seduces me and tells me all these hot stories and dirty things and tells me about how she wants to suck on me and take my shoes off and licks my feet and touches me. When I'm in a limousine, she takes all of her clothes off. The limo driver says, "What's going on?" And she starts sucking me on the way to Mr. Coon's house. And I thank her. I thank her for making me feel good. And that's when the attorney says,
"Sir, the question was, is this your handwriting?"
The greatest question and answer and question ever. The other thing I really enjoyed this week was I'm going to pull back the curtain for the people. We get a list of all the sounds and a little like 2-word, 3-word summary of what was said. Jim Harbaugh, football guys. Trevor Lawrence looking in the mirror, et cetera, et cetera. My favorite thing is on the sheet, Patrick Mahomes, just his name, because we know it's just his voice. Doesn't matter what he said. We just like listening to his voice.
McVay's voice was unusually hoarse during that
so
one.
Good. Raspy.
Andre Ward, next. Excited about this one. Andre Ward is a boxing Hall of Famer. He's an Olympic gold medalist. He is former unified world champion. He retired 2017, undefeated. And now with Matt Barnes, our friend Steven Jackson, All the Smoke, he's the chief content officer of their combat sports vertical. That's doing a lot of great work. You can follow it on YouTube at ATS Fight and on the DraftKings Network. Steven Jackson has a show, Morning Combat, does tapings out of the Meadowlark studio in New York. They're on the ground at fights. There's a lot more coming, including Dre's show, The Art of War. The Art of Ward, not The Art of War. It debuted this week. Andre Ward with us here. Let's get started. Good talking to you, Andre. Thank you for making the time, sir. I appreciate that at this point in your life, you are now an executive and a content person, and you have found out what to do in retirement that doesn't batter your body. Thank you for making the time for us, sir.
No, brother, it's good to be on with you. It's very, very good to not be in those wars and taking that punishment. But I kind of miss dishing it out, though. I got to be honest with you.
You miss it?
I miss dishing out the punishment, not taking it.
What don't you miss about boxing?
You know what, man? It's and I've said this, several times. Post-retirement is one of the reasons you retire is to get your freedom back, and very dedicated person. How I do some things is how I do all things. I'm very, very locked in. I understood the dangers of the sport. I understood the dedication that needed to be there. So whether I'm on vacation or whether I'm having time with my family, I got the sport on my mind. I don't miss those times. I don't miss those periods where my brain is always kind of split to think about my weight or the next fight or the next negotiation. So having that freedom and being a civilian, if for lack of a better phrase, and just being able to be a normal person and working out when I want to, not beat myself up if I don't want to work out, and just being a normal person and taking on other tasks like we're talking about today with this all the smoke stuff. That's a very, very freeing feeling.
Oh, but Andre, you are underselling the obsessive compulsive thing that you had to do to be great at that when you can have it taken away from you on a punch, and every young, hungry person in your sport wants what you have. Explain to the uninitiated what it took to be you, because I don't think anybody understands how hard it was to make it look as easy as you made it look.
I mean, when somebody's great at what they do, they make it look easy, but to your point, it's anything but. It's a lot of tinkering, a lot of toiling, a lot of rough days. It's a lot of questioning yourself. It's a lot of finding yourself again, and obviously a lot of physical hard work. But I'm I'm a mental guy. I'm very, very in tune with the mind, and I feel like that's so important when you talk about just life, but then also sports. And so I was always not just doing physical reps, but the mental reps. And then after you've done all that prep work, all the hard work, now you have to go execute. So that's the tricky part about this thing, man. But I loved it. But you just get to a point where you don't love it like you used to. And when you start to get to that point where the R word, retirement, starts to get in your mind, and you start saying it, and it starts to, you just start to hear it in your conversation, it's probably beginning to be time to start making that decision. But the beautiful thing is this, that obsession, that being locked in, that focus, now I can put that toward other things. And that's the missing piece a lot of times for athletes and even entertainers or anybody who's done something for an extended period of time. The door closes on what they previously did or what they were known for. Now they're lost. They don't have that other project. I've always been a man on a mission. I've always been a man with a mission. You just have to change the mission. Same passion, same drive, just for other things.
More specifically, though, if you were explaining to a stranger, here's the arduous thing that I had to do in the shadows that no one understands how arduous this part of it was. to be as excellent as I was, because Drew Brees says excellence is lonely. Greatness is lonely. Like when you're running at 5 o'clock in the morning and you don't want to do it a second time, third time in a day, like you explain to the person who doesn't understand, for you to stay on top, the example you can give me of you could not do what I did here would be what?
One thing, there's many, but one thing is maintaining your belief in yourself and your ability in the biggest moments. Fighters, athletes, they put on a good front a lot of times. And I'm not saying that we aren't confident. We are. We would not get to the level that we got to if we were not confident. But every athlete at a certain point in time, when the event gets close, and even in preparation, where you have to battle doubt, you have to battle fear, you have to battle worry, you have to battle these things. How you battle those things determine who you are that night, that day, whatever sport you play. You got to win that battle over and over and over, and you have to fight that fight very, very well, or you won't be successful for any extended period of time. That's not talked about with a lot of athletes, but that's a real thing.
I think it's super interesting that you're shrugging off the physical stuff and you're just doing the mental stuff, because I'm imagining what you're saying to me is, do you understand what my pain threshold has to be as a boxer for the physical stuff? That I got conquered. That ain't the hard part.
Well, I can't even really do the physical consistently at the level it needs to be done if my mental isn't right. We shine a bright light on the physical, and that's cool to get the clips for, all access 24/7 or just whatever content channel you're on. But you do got to wake up. There's some days you wake up and you don't feel like doing that. That's when the mental comes in. There's some days, because you've done this thing, whatever sport you're in or whatever it is that you do for so long, that you can kind of do it mindlessly. You can just go through the motions. But when you train with a purpose, when you train and prepare with an urgency, that's mental fortitude. That's something in you saying, I don't feel like it, but I still got to push through. So that's why, for me, the mental part is so important.
A big Canelo fight this weekend in Vegas. Can you tell me where you put his legacy?
It's tough, man, because, Canelo's fans, they have a problem with me because I tell the truth and I'm not afraid to speak my mind. Though I balance it out with the respect that I feel Canelo deserves. So I think Canelo is a really good fighter, man. I think that he's done. You can't question the marketability. You can't question the fanfare. You can't question, the love that his fans have for him and what he's done from that standpoint. Arguably, the face of boxing, next to Gervonta and a few others. But it is hard for me to rate the legacy, because at a certain point you start seeing the picking and choosing, right? Well, I'm not going to fight that guy. I'm going to fight this guy. Now, hear me. Some of that stuff, you got to do it. You can't fight a tough number one contender, another champion, fight in and fight out. You get to a certain point where you have that luxury. Floyd had it. Roy had it at a certain point. Canelo has it. Gervonta has it. And that's fine. Do that. If it's just a money thing and you just want to have events, man, do that. But then you start asking questions like you just asked me about legacy. You can't really quantify a legacy, and you can't be considered one of those all-time greats if you're not facing other greats consistently. So that's the problem that I have. So that's the long way of saying I don't really know how to quantify his legacy at this point. He's a really good fighter, man, and you can't take that from him. But his career is still going on. We'll see how he finishes. But he's at a point now where he's making it perfectly clear. I'm not fighting certain guys. I'm not interested in that. I'm gonna fight this guy. And I don't think that's how it's supposed to be done.
Who gets the most respect from you there on he would fight anybody?
What do you mean?
Just somebody whose legacy you do not question, because you are saying they took on all comers and didn't do the earned right of I'm going to pick and choose at the end because I'm going to protect the business.
There's a lot of guys. I mean, but the more we start talking about those guys like the James Tonys and many others that came behind him, the McClellan and Roy and certain people at certain points in times in their career, you start to get further away from this legacy. You start to get further away from this era. So the game is different. And even Floyd, Floyd gets a lot of flack for picking and choosing, and Floyd fought the tough fights. You got pretty boy Floyd Mayweather at the first 10 years of his career, and then he got to a certain threshold and a certain point after the Oscar De La Hoya fight where he could pretty much fight whoever he wanted to fight. But even Floyd, later in his career, he still fought Marcos Maidana. That ain't twice. At his age, that ain't no easy fight. So Floyd is definitely in that category, and there's a lot of other greats that are in that category. It's tough to point out a lot of those guys now. It's not a lot of those guys that are in a top position where they have high earning power that are willing to take on those challenges. And again, you shouldn't take on those challenges fight in and fight out. You should not do that. That you get to a point, you earn the right to pick and choose. But if you want to have a legacy play and a money play, at some point in time, you got to fight some of the other best guy in that division or around your division and continue to show the fans and prove to yourself that you are still the guy you say that you are.
Where is your relationship these days with Floyd Mayweather? I offer you no disrespect when I say that he used to call you a corporate shill, and I imagine a man as proud as you probably wasn't having much of that.
Yeah. I've never had a relationship with Floyd. I've always seen Floyd in passing. I've flown from the Bay Area probably 3 or 4 times when he had training camps. I would come watch him for a day. Was always respect, when I see him. Oh, what's up, champ? Oh, what's up, champ? That's always the case with Floyd. But he's taken many shots at me throughout the years. That's a question you got to ask him. I have no personal issues with Floyd. I don't agree with a lot of stuff that Floyd does or says, outside the ring, but I'll always honor him. I'll always give him the respect he deserves as the virtuoso that he is inside the ring, man. I've taken a lot from him. I've stolen a lot from him stylistically, while at the same time trying to, maintain and stay who I was. But relationship-wise, it's never been there.
Hurtful to hear a great talk that way, or if there's no relationship? The only people who hurt me with their criticism are people whose opinions I respect, right? And so I don't know how any of that stuff lands. You're taking the high road. It's very kind of you, but does it hurt, or it's just sort of like, whatever, people can say what they want?
No, I mean, I think when I was younger, I think it did hurt. And I think I felt it a lot more. But, as I got older, man, I just understood. I wasn't the only one. I'm not the only one that Floyd would take shots at or say different things about. It's interesting. The why is interesting. I've never had no history with Floyd. We don't have any off-camera or offline issues. I've only respected Floyd. I don't think Floyd can find somebody that said, oh, Ward talked bad about you. So I think that's the biggest thing is just what is, and I spoke about this in my book, just, I said, man, that's something y'all gotta, the people gotta ask Floyd Mayweather. Floyd has never really embraced me as sort of one of his own. And I really don't know why, but the thing is this, like I said, when I was younger, you feel it because you look up to this person as a fighter. But when you become full grown and you become a man, you understand tendencies, you understand how their patterns are. You start to see, okay, this ain't just with me, this with other people. Okay, in this situation, he tends to move like this. So I let it be what it's gonna be. And you know me, man, I'm a praying man, and I try to make sure that all my relationships are relationships God want me to be in. And I've learned that when a door seems shut, when there doesn't seem to be any synergy, or it don't seem like it's like a natural situation, I've learned to leave those relationships alone because they're not for me for whatever reason. And you may not even know what those reasons are. So I will always honor Floyd Mayweather for what he's done in the ring and how he prepared for fights, how he respected the game. He's given my generation and many generations so much inspiration, seeing how he dealt with big moments in that ring. Some of the same media backlash that he got, I got, and a lot of other fighters got. And we pulled from Floyd to see how he dealt with certain things and how he navigated that. But there is a point where that respect stops, and I just let Floyd be Floyd.
You are not a hater, and you are also a lover of the art of boxing. How do you feel about the circus freak fights like the Paul brothers or Jake Paul and Mike Tyson? You feel how about that?
Man, it's tough. On one hand, for me, like, let me just start here. I look at Tyson and I look at his age, and there's a part of me that doesn't appreciate that part, because Mike could get hurt in that ring if they're truly going to be throwing punches and trying to hurt each other. On the other hand, and I've said this before publicly, that there's another part of me selfishly that wants to see Mike out there, that is interested in the spectacle, and I want to see how it's going to turn out. But the better part of me is saying, bro, we need to make sure Mike is good. Not because Mike ain't, tough or can't defend himself. And, if there's any man at that age that you probably don't want to worry about, is Mike Tyson. But the spectacle as a whole, a lot of people have an issue with Jake Paul, man. I don't have an issue with what he's doing, man. Him and his brother, Logan, they built up their fan base various ways throughout the year. If they are able to bring that fan base over here to boxing and sell out arenas and do some decent pay-per-views and make some money, hey, man, that's their prerogative. Like, people say they're taking away from other fighters. No, they're not. The consumer can decide what they want to spend money on and what they don't. And if fighters have a problem with it, then they just got to step their game up. You got to figure out a way to sell yourself more. You got to figure out your niche. They found their niche in other places, and they brought that niche over here. The last thing I'll say about that is I respect, what Jake is doing, because I know some of the circles that he runs in and some of the guys he's around, and they're real boxing people. He's really in there getting the shiners on his eye, getting the black eyes, trying to learn to be a good fighter. And I respect that. He seems to be a hard worker, and I respect that about him. Now, should he fight for a world title? Nah, I don't think that should be the case. I know that's what he wants to do. And given how the sanctioning bodies do business, right? It's a business for them. I'm sure they'll try to find a way to make that happen, but he's not a world-class boxer. But his hustle and what he's doing, it's hard to knock it, man. He's earned the right to do what he did because he brought a fan base over here, and they followed him, and they're paying.
The Art of War is on YouTube and DraftKings Network. I'm surprised, though, Andre. I feel like a fool. Everyone keeps talking about Mike Tyson might get hurt, and I keep thinking Jake Paul might get hurt. Like, if I would not want to fight you or Mike Tyson at 58 years old. Like, I understand that Jake Paul is a professional fighter, but he ain't the professional fighter that you guys were in your prime. He's just not.
He's not. And I like Mike, and I share your sentiments early, right? If Mike catches you in the right spot at the right time, Mike will hurt you at 80 years old. So yes, I've considered that, and I've thought about that. The problem is, as we all know, the age factor, and nobody escapes Father Time, and the body just doesn't work the same. And I don't know if this fight kind of drags on. I don't know if it's 8 rounds. 2-minute rounds or something like that, or are they doing 3 rounds? Do you know?
They've got all sorts of limits on it. I think the gloves are a little bit different. Are they doing headgear? Like there's some rules involved here that you wouldn't normally get with your average. And yes, no one wants to see a 60-year-old in the 7th round for sure. Like that's not right. Something. There's no headgear, Chris. There are certain things that they're doing with this fight that are different. It's going to look a little different than the average fight.
Yeah, I haven't kept up with the rules, but I'll tell you this: the Mike Tyson that I saw fight in exhibition against Roy Jones, that was still a dangerous Mike Tyson. I felt like that was two of my uncles fighting at the barbecue. I love both guys, but I was nervous for both guys. I'm like, don't hit Roy. I'm like, Roy, don't hit Mike. But Mike looked dangerous in there, and Roy even talked about it. He said, man, you guys keep talking about, I don't know if Roy or Mike said it, but one of them said, man, you guys keep talking about this, my opponent getting hurt, but what about me? I think it may have been Mike. But Mike looked dangerous, man. If that Mike can show up, man, it may get interesting early. But I get concerned about the age, man, the wear and tear, and the miles on the odometer, man.
We're looking at no headgear, 14-ounce gloves, and 8 2-minute rounds for
8 2-minute
for Tyson versus Paul.
Yeah. So it's gonna go quick, but
it is good.
It can still get spicy in 8 2 minutes.
It's good seeing you. I'm sure the Art of Ward will also get spicy. As I mentioned, he is the Chief Content Officer for the Combat Sports vertical that Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson and All the Smoke are doing. Thank you, Andre. It's been a pleasure watching you, and I look forward to seeing what it is that you make here over the next 10 years.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Amin, did you have any reaction? We mentioned Jimmy Butler and this Netflix documentary series that Jimmy Butler is going to be a part of, along with LeBron, Sabonis, Tatum, and Anthony Edwards. The report recently that the Golden State Warriors had been asking questions about trading for Jimmy Butler. What did you think of that? Because it would make sense if the Golden State Warriors are trying to get a player that is win now to try and see if the last embers of Steph and Draymond can win something.
Yeah, we talked about this on Oddball the other day, and this is a particular type of rumor that surfaces usually late September or whatever. It can happen any time of the year, but it happens a lot around this time of year, which is a rumor that is, I would say, factually reported, but not necessarily timely. My belief is that whatever conversation that happened between the Warriors and the Heat happened months ago, and there is no active conversation at this point surrounding Jimmy Butler. Like, they expressed interest, and nothing came of it, and we moved on. But because
you're saying you think that this happened like toward the end of the season, or in the off season?
My guess is sometime prior to Klay Thompson joining the Mavericks. Because if you look at the books, the amount of stuff that the Warriors would have to put together in order to get a Jimmy Butler, it doesn't work as cleanly as it would have before Klay Thompson was signed and traded to Dallas. In the same way that Paul George, the Warriors were in the Paul George hunt until they realized the Clippers were not going to play ball with them in any sort.
So probably around the same time. That whenever it is that they were thinking about Paul George would have been about the same time that they were looking at a plan B on Jimmy Butler. How do you imagine that conversation went with the Miami Heat, though? Like, what is it that you'd be trading back to them to get Jimmy Butler?
Well, at that time, like I said, it probably would have been a multi-team sign and trade with Klay Thompson landing in Dallas and some other pieces moving around. Now, I don't know. I mean, I guess you've got Buddy Hield, you've got DeAnthony Melton, a couple other. You got Jonathan Kuminga, obviously, is the crown jewel of any deal with the Warriors. But Dan, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know if that makes either team better. Obviously, Miami is left without a real offensive dynamo.
You don't think that would make the Warriors better?
I don't know, because this is the problem that I've had with the Warriors the last couple of years, Dan. I don't think they're deep enough, right? I think Steph has to do too much, right? And, Klay obviously wasn't quite what he's been in the past, and Jordan Poole didn't turn out to be what they thought he was going to be. So they didn't have that plethora of depth. They were relying on young guys who were very inconsistent the last couple of years. And what they did this offseason, I really enjoyed what they did, was they went out and they said, look, we're going to go back to what helped us, which is getting our stars some guys who know how to play. I don't have to worry about them developing. So you add Melton, you add Kyle Anderson, you add Buddy Hield. Like, these are dudes that know what they're doing out there. They're vets. They've been around the league. And now they've got some depth. If you have to add all those guys up, or, and I'm assuming the Warriors would not want Andrew Wiggins, because does not strike me as Heat culture, right? If you add those guys up, that's what gets Jimmy Butler, who makes a ton of money. But now you're left with the same problem. It's Steph, it's Jimmy, it's Draymond, and a bunch of kids. And I don't think that gets them closer to the prize. And also, there's the issue of how much is Jimmy going to want? Because any Jimmy Butler deal, any team, whether it's the Miami Heat or any other team that's interested in acquiring him, that's a conversation that's hurtling towards you, and he's not thinking of himself as, I'll take 25 and go along my way. He wants to get paid what he feels he's worth.
Is that shirt something that you bought because you're the world's biggest sucker for Instagram targeted ads?
Well, I don't know if I'm the biggest sucker. And for the listening audience, I'm wearing it's like a campaign T-shirt, but it says Randy Watson 24.
So
Sexual
good.
chocolate.
Yep.
So good.
That's right.
That boy good for America.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously I love Coming to America. It's a shirt that gets a lot of reactions. Just walking in here, Roy just yelling that. Carl, one of our execs, saw it and he was like, "Where'd you get that shirt?" And everyone, Tony,
Joe the policeman from the What's Going Down episode of That's My Mama.
There you go. Everybody was very excited just to see the shirt, and I knew I was going to get that because that's why I got the shirt. But I know the only reason I own this shirt is because as I was scrolling on Instagram, got me a little IG targeted ad, and I said, "Damn, man, how good is that algorithm?"
It's the best, right?
All the time. I buy so much dumb over there.
As we start the post game here, a little listener feedback from Twitter here about our Jim Abbott conversation.
Oh.
Listening to Amin talk about Jim Abbott, considering the way he shoots a basketball, has me on the verge of punching myself in the face.
Please punch. Oh, let's talk about Jim Abbott some more. I want that guy to just crest his fist right through his skull. I want him to look like a Looney Tunes character, just elbow sticking out of the front of his face. Jim Abbott, I could do what he could do. I wrap my hand up, put me on in a major league game. What's the name of that listener? Let's give him some shine with that stupid-ass comment.
That guy is right.
No, he's not.
You
He's not
making fun of a one-handed
I didn't make fun
pitcher.
of him. Did I make fun of him?
Yes.
Did I make fun of? I did not make fun of him.
Made light of.
I made fun of the guy that gave up 2 hits to him.
An arm and 3/4, I mean.
That's not making fun of him, Roy. That's being accurate.
That's.
I like accuracy. I'm sorry. I'm a victim of my own OCD towards accuracy. Excuse me.
Except with your jump shot.
Gotta measure
which is
that,
what that guy is mocking when he says you shouldn't be making fun of anyone's athleticism given what that jump shot looked like,
I didn't make
especially
fun-
since it was somebody who threw a no-hitter with one hand.
Did not make fun of his athleticism. Did not even reference his athleticism. I just described him. Also, that was one jump shot. I was a victim of viral decontextualization, as
That is
we all
true.
know.
Do we have Jim Abbott shooting hoops, guys? Can we get that? Thank you.
I bet you if you do, I bet you one thing, it's not going to be like one-handed like Anthony Mason shooting a free throw. He's going to have his 3/4 of an arm playing a part.
It's actually perfect for his jump shot.
Exactly.
Because it doesn't push his
the
shot
guide
either
hand.
way.
His
Yeah,
guide hand
hand's great.
is not getting in the way at all. It's just
Guide
a
nub.
nub. The guide nub. There you go.
Can we put it on the poll? Are having physical limitations a benefit in sports?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Yes, put it in there, but put the word sometimes because
Parentheses.
sometimes it's not. But
Well,
sometimes it is.
But
This is unbelievable.
the nub thing it's still bothering me. It doesn't.
I've tried looking for another word, Dan, but I
makes
can't
me
find any on the internet.
Laugh every time.
It doesn't feel right.
What do you call it? If it's not
I'm not. Look,
appendage?
We call it a nub.
I haven't found something that's a better synonym. I've checked the internet. It seems that nub is the way to go. Nub is descriptive in a way that makes everyone understand, and yet still I find myself thinking this doesn't feel quite right. This doesn't feel like the way that we should be discussing this. Once you get to the flippancy, the general flippancy of hitting somebody with a nub and just casually again and again saying nub, and certainly 1 3/4 arms is no better.
Look,
it's no better, but I don't know what I'm doing because I had great delight in making fun of JPP when he lost a couple of fingers to firecrackers.
See, that's awful. You made fun of him? That's terrible, Dan.
Well, I thought that fingers were, and this was a different time. So perhaps this is aged poorly as well. But I thought that the losing of fingers was one place, the only place perhaps, maybe toes, where a deformity could be mocked.
Whoa. There's a significant difference here. That was an injury. We're talking about a deformity here.
Well, deformity. Wow, that sounds terrible.
That's even worse than nub.
Yeah, really bad.
Giants owner John Mara, who also today said he doesn't know how many fingers JPP has.
But it was also the way that he lost the fingers, right? Firecrackers, like you just got an explosion and then a couple of fingers go flying. That is also, yes, a terrible accident. There's no disputing that it's a terrible accident.
He doesn't know how many fingers JPP has.
I don't agree or approve of any of this. You guys are being, that's flippant. You guys are trying to be funny. Me, I'm saying I got nothing but love for Jim Abbott. But it is 3/4 of an arm.
That is accurate. But play, please, that Sports Center flash sound, because this was said with no irony, and it was delivered by a broadcaster being maximum broadcaster on, I'm going to hit this right at the end before the clock clips me at the end. I'm going to hit this with news and information.
Giants owner John Mara, who also today said he doesn't know how many fingers JPP has.
Happiest that has ever been said.
Chris lip-synced that perfectly.
Because it's Kevin Winter, and he's an update guy. And at the time, people were asking, well, what happened? Why is he hiding his hand? He's had explosives in his hands. And then somebody asked the Giants owner, and the Giants owner did not have an answer. So he's just reporting the news.
Giants owner John Mara, who also today said he doesn't know how many fingers JPP has.
Shout out to my guy, Kevin Winter, by the way. That's a good dude, man.
Great guy.
I've worked with him before. He's awesome.
You think not important information in the context of this conversation?
He doesn't know how many fingers JPP has.
I don't think he wants to be allies with you, given your general performance around the nub. See, I don't feel right saying it. I don't feel right saying it.